My dad was born in 1946 when the communists took over China. They hunted my family down like dogs. They murdered her daughter in front of her by throwing her out of a window. If you are not equipped with grit, the free market in particular is going to eat your lunch. This company was going out of business fast. We were 90 days from bankruptcy. Contractors from the Army found us and said, hey, would you guys be interested in working on body armor cooling for soldiers? And I was like, oh my gosh, water's the battery. I'm thinking about this all wrong.
Welcome to the show, Justin.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, Garret.
Yeah, appreciate you coming all the way over here. We met a few months ago at one of those incredible Meet Perry events down in Austin. And as soon as I found out about your background and what you have going on, I'm like, got to get you on the show because it's a perfect segue as we flow into season 2. Season 1's been all about law enforcement, military, and what I really find interesting because it's kind of my own journey, going from law enforcement, becoming an entrepreneur, the struggles as you exit, what do you do? And a lot of people are under those struggles, but you're a great case in point. You were a police officer, among many other things. You leave the department to pursue another business venture. You're like your second or third along the way, but this one really takes off, which we will get into later. That's all this cool gear you have behind you. But before we get into the what's happening now, all this gear that's behind you and how it's saving lives, literally, we just want to get to know you, find out more about how you got to where you are, your life's journey, because it's very inspirational. And it literally starts even before you were born.
Yeah.
Like, the story of you and your family and why you are the person you are, why you're so driven, why you're so talented, and all of these things. So I can't wait to get into it. And so without further ado, Mr. Justin Lee, co-founder and CEO currently of Qore Performance, based out of Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yes, sir.
But there's a lot more to the story than just that, and so that's what we're here to learn about. So, and before we do, in case people are like, what the hell is Meet Perry? So that's what I said too. So I got into Meet Perry because one of the co-founders, Matt, we trained his dog.
Yep.
So anybody that watched our show, Mr. Rudy, the gray Cane Corso, the blue Cane Corso, that was his dog, and that's how we got connected. And then as far as my business goes, it's very typical. Oftentimes, our customers turn into friends. And so that's exactly what's happened with Matt. So we finished training his dog. He learned more about my business. He's like, bro, you got to join Meet Perry. And I'm like, who's Perry?
Who's Perry?
He's
right.
like,
who am I meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? But he told me all about it. And you explained it better than I did. How would you explain Meet Perry?
So it was explained to me by one of the co-founders, Michael, I think very well, which was, it is a group of like-minded entrepreneurs and finance professionals that come together to make money with friends, not off of friends.
Yep. And what I love about it is the people, the talent you run into, the inspirational stories. And I explain it this way too, which I find super interesting. Like, hey, if you had this bug, which I do, by the way, there's this ice cream store down the street from me. I'm like, bro, this guy's sitting on a gold mine, doesn't even know it. But if I wanted to, become an ice cream entrepreneur, right? If I wanted to be the next Ben and Jerry's, you would go to Meet Perry and say, guys, I have this idea. And they'll either help you with it, or they're going to help you with it, but they might help you by saying, that's a horrible idea.
That's a horrible idea, right? You should not do that.
Yeah, or if it is a great idea, they're like, Garret, I know the guy that owns the dairy farms. I know a guy who actually franchised, 50 ice cream stores, and he can tell you all about the ups and downs. And we will make sure if you go to do this, that it's the best decision ever. And all of this just free information because we're all here to just help each other. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's super cool about it. Like with the thousands of members and growing, slowly but surely, because you got to be invited. They don't just let anybody in. And that's another thing that's cool about it.
Very important.
You have to be nominated. You have to be vetted before you come in. But the point is when you are getting information, you are getting information from entrepreneurs and people who've been there and done that many times over. And so, and we thrive off of each other's energies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Super cool.
It's a great group of individuals.
And then we meet guys like you at events where I'm like, got to get you on the podcast, bro. Got to hear all about it.
Yeah, that was fun.
Without further ado, tell us a little bit about your background. Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Southern California. I was born in Orange County, grew up in San Diego, and moved to Dallas in my adult life, and then eventually to Virginia, where I met my wife, and we live now.
Well, we got to go back. We skipped over a whole bunch of good stuff there. You have a very interesting background as far as your family. Last name Lee.
Yep. Chinese
descent. Tell me about that.
So my dad's side of my family does come from China, and my dad was born in 1946. So he was born just before the Cultural Revolution, which many people may not be familiar with that, but it was basically when the communists took over China. And it created what we now know as the People's Republic of China. But in the process,
It was a nice peaceful transfer of power, wasn't it?
yeah. As far as tyrannical, revolutions go, sure, yes. But yeah, the Red Guard, which was basically the enforcement arm of the Chinese communists, are basically who led the revolution or the Cultural Revolution, and they hunted my family down like dogs because my family consisted mostly of Christian capitalists, educated in the West. My family was very successful in China, and so they had the resources to be able to send their kids to the London School of Economics and other places in the United States and in Europe to get educated. So that, of course, was fine before the communists took over, but as many people watching this probably know, being a Christian and capitalists to communists makes you enemy of the state number one.
Public enemy number one, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
And so paint that picture, if you will. I mean, you used a pretty powerful word there. You said hunted.
Yes, they were hunted. So they were hunted, and they had to basically flee the United States, kind of in spurts. They couldn't go all at once. My great aunt actually tells this story in a book that she wrote called Life and Death in Shanghai. Her name is Nian Chung, and she was one of the last of the family members to leave. So she is my paternal great aunt, so my father's mother's aunt, and very smart, brilliant woman who was educated at LSE. And she refused to confess to crimes against the state, which is what the Red Guard wanted her to confess to, that being Christian and capitalist. And in her refusal to confess to these crimes, these alleged, these fake crimes, they defenestrated her daughter. And you and I talked about this earlier.
Yeah, that's a big word for me.
It's a big word. Yeah, it just basically means that they murdered her daughter in front of her by throwing her out of a window. And then they imprisoned her in solitary confinement for almost 7 years.
And I want to slow it down because I want to really paint a picture. About how old do you think she is at this?
That's a great question. So my great aunt passed in 2009. I think she was 93 at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I guess if you back that out, probably 50, 60. Yeah, so she was probably somewhere around her 30s.
Yeah, so middle-aged woman. Her daughter's, we guesstimated, around 18 years old, give or take. Her young teenage daughter, murdered right in front of her because of her Christian and capitalist beliefs.
Yep.
Because she was her family was successful, and she didn't want to convert to the communist ways, and they were out there to just eradicate anything.
Correct.
For communism to work, which we know it doesn't work, but for it to even have a hope of working, everyone's got to be on the same page.
Absolutely. And their version of the same page is by force. And anybody who thinks that has not lived through communism. Yeah. I had the good fortune of spending some time with my great aunt in college. We were co-located at that time by design, and I learned a lot about what communism is really like, not what some of today's youth think that it is.
Right, not what's taught in the school books.
Yeah, what it really is brutality. Right. What it is it's an absolute removal of humanity, and it is replaced by the will of other men and women.
The government.
The government.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Government tells you everything.
Everything. Yeah. Yes. And her case is a perfect example. Right. Being a Christian and being capitalist is now a crime. And overnight, and you need to confess to these crimes against the state.
And by the way, if she had confessed, I wonder, would they just execute her then, or it'd be confess and convert? Or
yeah, great question.
Yeah, I think it's no doubt because they killed millions of people,
tens of millions.
Yeah, and what's wild is I'm fairly well versed in history, but it is a blip in the history books when you go to public school. Yeah, Cultural Revolution, end of chapter 5, and move on to the next.
Yeah, communists took over, and they created what we now know as the PRC.
Yeah,
right? And then they move on.
But they don't cover the gory details of mass executions over a fairly short amount of time,
or the intimate murder of people's children, like in my aunt's case, my great aunt's case.
Yeah, horrible. Right? But so tell us about that after they murdered her daughter.
So after they murdered her daughter, they imprisoned her anyway. Right? They put her in solitary confinement. They put her on a diet of water and cabbage, like I said, for roughly 7 years.
I've heard people talk about solitary confinement and how even just 30 days of it, 60 days can just make you go crazy. 7 years.
7 years, yeah, just about.
Solitary confinement, water and cabbage.
Yeah. And for anybody who would like to check this, right, they can read her book.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's still available on Amazon. And I think that I'm very grateful that she codified the story so that the facts can be, preserved for history and for other people to hopefully internalize and remember, so that we as a country hopefully don't repeat those mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your great aunt is famous in her own right. She had a couple of big fans.
She did, yes, known as President and First Lady Ronald and Nancy Reagan. First Lady Nancy Reagan, she read my aunt's book during their first term, I believe, and absolutely fell in love with it. She gave it to her husband, obviously the president at the time, and Ronald Reagan loved the book. So much so that he invited her to the White House and held a state dinner in her honor,
Wow.
which is a big deal to this day, right? Not everybody gets a state dinner in their honor. And she sat at his right-hand side, right? So she had the guest of honor spot. I have some pictures. I guess we can probably show them later if you want.
Oh,
But
yeah, it'd be incredible to show that.
with my aunt and President and Nancy Reagan. And President Reagan found it to be inspirational because he found it to basically be the bedrock of why he felt America was so important, because his job and or he felt our job, right, was to prevent tyranny and communism from ever rearing its head again, at least here for the first time, right? And he viewed it as kind of like the story for why America.
Yeah.
And
Incredible.
I'm inclined to agree. I mean, it was the stories that she shared, the brutality, the absolute brutality of the Red Guard is, I think, beyond what most of us can comprehend in America.
Yeah.
Certainly today, but it's a good reminder of why the Constitution is so important, no matter what certain people think of it. This is not a way other humans should treat other humans. I don't think anybody, regardless of political affiliation, would think that this is a good way to treat people, right? Solitary confinement, water and cabbage, making up crimes,
Yeah.
mass
Mass execution.
executions, right? Imprisonment on demand, right? No trial by a jury of your peers, no due process, right? These are things that I think it seems like a lot of us take for granted today, right? Certainly not you and I, but certainly a lot of other people do. But if you had walked a mile in her shoes, right? If you had experienced the violence, the cruelty, the brutality of communism in real life, I don't think anybody would ever wish that on their worst enemy. But she lived it, and any of your viewers can read her book.
Yeah, and that's the background from where you start. This is the foundation, meaning this is what I'm assuming is talked about, over dinner, or you're born into this. Everyone in your family, even though she experienced probably the worst of it, everyone in your family had to flee
Yes.
from that side anyways. And so it's just this strong push in the opposite direction. Let's get to America and continue to live out being Christians and capitalists to the best of our ability.
Yeah, and certainly for my dad and his father, one of the reasons that they wanted America over Canada is because they had read about and been educated on this thing called the Second Amendment, and the intent behind the Second Amendment, right? Which, contrary to what maybe our parents' generation would have espoused, is for hunting and sport shooting. And they understood 60 years ago, 70 years ago, that the Second Amendment had nothing to do with defending your home against criminals. It had nothing to do with hunting, and it had nothing to do with sport shooting. It had everything to do with preventing the rise of a tyrannical government ever again. And they found that to be the most compelling value proposition, if you will, right? And so because they had gone through this experience at the hands of the Red Guard, and communists, right?
Hopeless, defenseless,
Right?
weaponless.
They couldn't own weapons, right? They couldn't defend themselves if they wanted to. They were law-abiding citizens, and that was the law, right? So they had decided, like, this is never going to happen to us again, right? We will die free. And the only way you can die free is if you can defend yourselves. And more than that, you defend yourselves, that if you have a Second and a First Amendment that facilitates the prevention of tyranny.
And so here they came to America.
Here they came to America.
I think they made the right choice.
I think so too.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'd be Canadian.
Right. And that would be honestly terrible.
No offense to you Canadians, but
I actually, I mean, I kind of don't care. I think that anybody who is okay with the rise of tyranny, which we have absolutely seen in Canada the last few years, right?
Oh, yeah.
They can call it whatever they want. That is tyranny, right? And if you look at the way that the Canadian government treated
Jordan Peterson.
the truckers, right?
Yeah.
That looked eerily like what my aunt used to tell me about when I was a college student, when I was a teenager, right? Later as a young adult. And so the story in Canada, I feel for the Canadian people because while I didn't live in Canada, I'm not Canadian, right? But what I watched, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what Big Auntie, that's what we used to call her. This is what she used to warn me about, right? The behavior of the Canadian government towards these people that just want to be left alone, right?
Yeah. And they take your rights away slowly but surely. I think the same with the Cultural Revolution. I'm sure it was, hey, let's make sure nobody has guns. And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and it was
Once they take away your guns and then they take away your freedom of speech, then you got nothing.
well, yeah, they can do whatever they want, right? And they did. The Red Guard did absolutely whatever they want, right? I mean, you can throw somebody's daughter out of a window, right, as agents of the state, right? That is acting with impunity.
Crazy.
Right? And that's I guess that's no way I want to live. Let's put it that
It's
way.
an incredible story, really. And so, again, that sets the stage for how you're raised and how you're brought up, which I think a great example is, as you mentioned, tell us about your father and how, what did he end up doing with his life that affected you?
Yeah, my dad was awesome. We were very close. He was an entrepreneur in his own right. He started a chemical company that made car care products called Eagle One Industries. And so he invented like the first wire wheel cleaning kit back in the 70s. Wire wheels were very popular, and the way you had to clean them was getting a toothbrush and scrubbing them, right? It's kind of very painstaking. So he invented the world's first spray-on, hose-off, two-step system to clean wire wheels, and his company kind of took off from there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the brand is still around today.
Yeah, I believe it's owned by Energizer today. Yeah. But he very much raised me, reminding me from really as early as I can remember why we came to America. The value of the Constitution, right? And these are not political statements. These are just like, hey, we don't want to live at the hands of tyrannical Red Guard.
Yeah.
Right? You vote however you want, but we just don't want to live at the hands of a tyrannical Red Guard, right? And so I grew up with those stories, right, of how hard it was for the family to reset, right? How little money they had because they had to start from zero, right?
Came here with nothing.
Came here with nothing, right? Literally nothing. They left China. Their lives in pre-cultural revolution China were very comfortable, right? They were a family of means, and then they came here as poor can be. So they literally had to reset from zero.
And so your father builds up this multi-million-dollar company, or he's got 30 or 40. How many employees did he have at the time when you turned around 10 years old?
Oh, when I was about 10, let's see here. So I think when he sold, he had quite a bit more, but I think when I was 10, I think he probably had 30-ish.
All right. It's
maybe
a
40.
legit company.
Yeah.
He's the president, CEO. He's
Founder.
founder. And he says, son, you want to come to work with me?
He does. Yeah. Yeah. All my friends were going to the beach, right? We were in San Diego. That's where I grew up. And so all my friends were going to the beach. And he's like, son, no, you're going to come to work with me. And I was like, okay. And so I went thinking, I mean, let's call it what it is. I went as a spoiled, like kind of entitled mindset kid thinking like, oh, well, my dad's the owner. I get to go to work with him. Cool. Right.
I'm going to sit next to him.
Yeah. I'm going to sit next to him and I'm going to
bark out the orders.
Yeah. Right. I'll learn and whatever. I'll go to lunch with him. I had no idea what I was thinking. I just kind of, you're 10 years old, right? Your thoughts aren't super complex, but they kind of revolve around your dad's your hero, right? And you think he's kind of this big shot and in your world. And so I get to go to work with the big shot, right? And man, I stepped foot in the office and it was a whole nother world. It was a rude awakening. And I didn't know how much preparatory work he had put into me coming to work with him, right? He had basically briefed and asked his team to not intentionally not treat me like his son, but rather to treat me like the newest entry-level employee. And so I got to work and they told me like, hey, you got to go report here. And I was assigned my first job and it was to sweep their warehouse. I don't know, 10, 15,000 square feet, right? Just the warehouse alone. It was an active warehouse and they gave me a dustpan and a little hand broom, right? Not a stand-up broom, not a push broom.
A hand broom.
Yeah, like the little hand broom thing that clips to the dustpan, right? And they were like, I'm 10 years old. I'm, tiny. And then there's this 15,000 square foot warehouse. This thing may as well have been Disney World to me, right? It was enormous. and it was active, so it got dirty instantly, right? And they're just like, yeah, clean away. So I spent all summer sweeping the warehouse.
When we were talking earlier, I'm like, okay, so your first day or two, you swept. No, the whole
The
summer.
whole summer I swept. Yeah,
That's all you did was sweep the floors.
that's all I did. Yes,
Because by the time you finished one aisle,
oh,
it's active. Like by the time you get to aisle 2, aisle 1's dirty again, or wherever
Yeah,
it is that
absolutely.
you could never get it cleaned.
no, you could never
kind
get it
of a
cleaned. It was big,
Pointless job, but just a pointless in the sense of
Right? No, it was pointless.
like it's going to stay dirty.
Right.
I don't care how much you're sweeping; it's just going to get dirty the next day.
Certainly at the rate you can sweep
Yes,
a hand
yes.
broom, right? Yeah.
But there was lessons to be learned there.
Yeah, my dad was determined to do what he felt would set me up to be successful in my adult life. And he felt that, even if he was good at business, right, he needed to shield me from the negative effects of him being good at business, right? And so he wanted to make sure that I had a good work ethic, that I understood that I was not entitled, that I wasn't, I literally was entitled to nothing, right? Regardless of what he had done, those were his accomplishments. That was his success, that was his company. And that I had to earn my own way, right? And so he wanted me to learn that work ethic, and it was great. And it also kind of taught me a little bit about invention, right? I learned very quickly that sweeping a warehouse with a dustpan is actually kind of hard on your knees. So I went to the library, which was basically where they kept all the old issues of magazines where they had advertisements or articles or features. And I just went to the oldest issues that I knew nobody was really going to miss. And I fashioned some knee pads with some packing tape that I found in the warehouse so that I could crawl along the floor and kind of sweep it, and who knows, for all I know, that warehouse, it was probably only like 2,000 square feet, right? But I remember it being massive because it felt like a huge job. And that just never ended. But I did it, I guess, well enough because the next summer I got promoted to paper shredder. Back in, this is like 1991, right? They had dot matrix feed printers, right? Which I bet probably nobody even sees today. And so they'd print out sales reports and sales data on these just reams of
Rolls
paper, right?
yeah.
And so they had a room that was a fairly large room, probably half the size of the room that we're in right now, and it was just filled to the ceiling with old sales reports that were sensitive but needed to be shredded, and nobody had time to do that, right? It wasn't that important of a task. So at 11, I got the task of shredding an entire room.
One page at a time.
One page at a time. And that was, again, he was also teaching me about problem solving. And so I figured out very quickly that all of these sheets were actually connected in very large stacks, right? And so the main problem I was running into was that the paper shredder had a tiny, tiny little waste bag, right? And it was like suspended underneath the paper shredder. The waste bag must have been no more than this big, right? Maybe 1 by 1 by 1. And you'd fill it up really quickly. So I figured out really fast within the first week that was my limiting factor. So I fashioned out of phone books a way of suspending the paper shredder over large, like
Garbage bags, basically. Yeah.
rubber garbage cans, right? So that they were stiff and they had some structure, and I could haul them out filled with paper. I hauled them out. I was 11. I was pushing this thing, right? And I had to kind of get the dolly, like it was heavy. But I needed to be able to run the paper continuously to get significantly more efficient. So then I figured out by like week 2, week 3, that what I really should do is take maybe one day and tape all of these different stacks of dot matrix paper together so that I could run the machine one continuous feed. And that's what I did. And then I got it so efficient that I would overheat the paper shredder long before I had to change out the ream or change out the trash can. So that was my promotion.
It's interesting though, see, because as I know you more now, and I looking back on these stories, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Why the decisions you make in your company now and your previous companies go back to the paper shredder experience.
Yeah, and the warehouse sweeping, right? I mean, I'm far from the brightest person in any room, right? I was a C student. I got C's in math all the time. I think I may have graduated high school and college with a 3.0, maybe, right? School was always very, very hard. So not being the sharpest kid, I had to come up with other ways to solve problems and create competitive advantages. And so that's what I did. I just knew I was like, I don't want to sit here and keep manually feeding.
Two things come to mind too as you're telling that story about your childhood. First is like present day. many people would be like, wow, that's child abuse.
Yeah.
That's freaking child abuse. And for all we know, he wasn't paying you, or he's definitely paying you well under the minimum wage, I'm sure. Who knows, just to
Yep.
prove a point.
Of
I can
course.
only imagine, right? Like, I haven't met your father, but I understand his philosophy.
Yep.
And so a lot of people now, oh, that's horrible.
Oh, yeah.
But how do you reflect back on those times?
I'm so grateful that he did that, and I think one of the things I'm most grateful for, and this is, my father passed in 2008, and this was my eulogy to him, was that I'm grateful that he made sacrifices to raise me. And what I mean by that is he did things that hurt him emotionally, that he knew he had to do as my father if he was going to set me up for success in later life. He didn't want to see his son crawling on the warehouse floor, sweeping the, right? He didn't want to see his son trying to get construction gloves so that he wouldn't get paper cuts from feeding reams of paper into the shredder, right? But, I made $4 an hour. I had to report a time card and everything. And it was really important to him, right? But he didn't love doing that emotionally, right? He just knew it was the right thing to do.
it, yeah.
And I'm very grateful that he had the discipline, the foresight, and the fortitude, probably most importantly, to give me that level of discipline, to give me that work ethic, that resolve, and I think maybe most importantly, that grit. Because Lord knows I've made a lot of bad business decisions, right? You're an entrepreneur. I mean, all of us, we've probably made more bad decisions. Well, maybe not you, but I've certainly made more bad decisions than I've made good decisions. Yeah, right.
It's the grit, though, that carries you through.
It's the grit that carries you through, right? Making bad decisions is inevitable, but how quickly you get up, how fast you learn from them, that's what makes the difference, right? And I learned that shredding paper and sweeping warehouses.
Unbelievable,
Yeah.
So
I'm very
the
grateful.
second thing I learned is, as my wheels are turning, I'm like, what jobs do I have around here for my kids? They're 6 and 8 right now, and I get them very involved in the business, but they're not 10 yet, but they help. Whether they want to or not, it's like, hey, you have to help. So
Yeah, which is great, right?
they need to know. They need to have a work ethic, yeah. Don't want them to be spoiled.
Right. It's mission critical.
And you said it right. It's like, it doesn't feel good to do it. It hurts to do it. So I'd rather just go to the movies.
Of course, right? Eat ice cream, right?
Yeah. But we can't, they're not going to become their best selves by sitting on the couch eating ice cream every day, so.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're going to be, eventually they're going to leave your protective, right, reach and your envelope, right? And when you can no longer protect them, right, they're going to have to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. And you and I both know, because we have lived in this world, right? The real world is a brutal place, right? It is unforgiving and it is ruthless. And if you are not equipped with grit and determination, right, and tough, like the free market in particular is going to eat your lunch.
Yeah, there's actually some more present day stories you're going to share with us in terms of, your entrepreneur story and being faced with some of those issues where someone who you thought was your friend or that you were helping turns out to maybe not be that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, competitors, and it's like you said, competitive out there. It's a dangerous world. At some point, you end up going to college. Could you summarize your experience in college?
Yeah. Grateful that I met the friends that I did, but college itself was a waste of time. I definitely wouldn't do it a second time. No way.
And I asked you, if you had children that were maybe my age, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 years old, whatever it is, would you be trying to steer them on a path towards getting into college? Or where would you be pointing your children?
If they had an inclination to a professional trade that required credentialing, lawyer, doctor, engineer, something, then sure. Right. If they had an inclination and a talent towards that, then okay. Yeah. I'd help them along that path. If not, then I would definitely encourage them to skip it, learn a trade, and try to work under, apprentice basically under a founder or an entrepreneur as best they could, but take as many risks as possible at a young age, because that's when risk is cheap.
Yeah.
Right. Risk gets exponentially more expensive as we get older. Right.
Have a family, have a
family,
mortgage.
Right.
Yeah.
At the stage that you and I are at in our careers, right, risk becomes very expensive. It's very cheap when you're 18, right? You can miss a lot when you're 18. Your overhead is minimal, right? Your body is young. It's very fit. It recovers very quickly. It doesn't get sick very easily. So you can do a lot of things that, maybe you can't do when you're in your, 40s, 50s, 60s, right? So yeah, I'd encourage them to take risk. I'd encourage them to learn a trade, learn a skill, or if they wanted to go to school, then to study something in hard sciences or, something that gives you an actual usable skill. But
Where you and I agreed on it was college for you was a waste of time.
Oh,
I have
yeah.
a master's degree. Ask me what it's in.
Yeah, what is your master's degree
Doesn't
in?
matter. Doesn't matter for shit.
Right.
It just doesn't. It's so silly. So yeah, me and my wife talk about it all the time. But no offense to those who do go to college, but the days of like you must have a 4-year degree. It's like, well, and tell us you do get out of college with your 4-year degree.
Yep.
And how'd that work out for you when you roll into your next job?
Yeah, it was useless. Yeah, and like, I think that's a good point, right? It's not like I'm speaking from a position of ignorance, right? I have a 4-year degree. I went to an expensive school, theoretically fancy, right? And it didn't teach me anything. I got to my first job at a great company, still one of my favorites, Oakley, and I couldn't do anything. Right? I couldn't do anything that the company needed that was valuable, right? I didn't know how to run spreadsheets. I didn't know how to build pivot tables. I didn't know how to build analyses, right? I got this degree in liberal arts. What did it do? It taught me how to be a mediocre writer. And it taught me how to read a lot of books that I couldn't apply in the real world doing business with real people and real companies.
And what was the actual degree you got?
Conflict and Security from the Elliott School of International Affairs at George Washington University.
Sounds fancy.
Sounds fancy.
Hey.
It's garbage.
Got you that job, kind of.
Yeah, maybe it did. I think, to be blunt, I think that what got me my job was that I had an entrepreneur father who understood how to pitch, right? One of the things that I tell my guys all the time and my wife and I talk about it all the time, this as an entrepreneur, the most valuable skill you can have in business is the ability to sell. And people mistake that as like, being a used car salesman. There's some type of stigma that I think that probably modern university has attached to selling, and it's wrong because you can tell that there's not real world experience based in that advice. Selling is not just about, hey, can you sell a used car? Can you sell a pair of shoes, right? Selling is about, can you persuade people to your way of thinking, to action things that you want actioned the way you want them actioned, and to do so where they believe in it, right? And not where you're manipulating them.
Selling an idea.
Getting
everyone's buy-in. Yeah, because if not everyone's sold on the idea, then your team's not going to...
Right. Then you're full of it, right? So you have to do it in a genuine, real, transparent way. And if you can't do that, like it's going to be very hard for you to be successful in business, right? Or maybe even just in life. Everybody's selling.
So how long did you end up lasting at Oakley?
Not long, right? We encountered some tough times. I don't know, 6, 9 months, 12 months, something into my first year. I honestly don't even remember at this point, but at some point, right in my first year, I know it was under a year, and I survived the first round of layoffs, but I did not survive the second round of layoffs. I think the first round was like 400-ish, and the second round of layoffs was like 150. I got axed in the 150.
So what happens after that?
So I decided that while working at a company like Oakley was super cool, and I'm forever grateful for that experience, I really wanted to start my own business. But again, I not super bright, so I had to kind of think of something simple. So I opened a paintball store in San Diego. We lasted about 3 years. I made more mistakes than I could possibly remember. And then...
but very valuable experience.
Very valuable experience, right? Learning what not to do is actually, I think, probably way more important than learning what to do, because right, when you learn the good things that you do almost never teach you anything because you don't put any stock in them, right? You're just like, oh, well, it worked. Okay, move on. Cool. But man, when you make a mistake and you feel some pain, right, you may not remember the exact pain. You just remember that it was painful, right? And your brain goes to, I don't want to repeat that again, right? I don't want that feeling again. So I thought that was pretty valuable. Made a ton of mistakes, but
that's when I fast. Like you said, it's sometimes more powerful to just avoid doing the bad things, and you will automatically end up doing good things, so to speak. That's talked a lot about in business. And when you're saying it better than I am, but I want to say, I bet you that's what Reagan had with your great aunt's book. Is these are all the things we're going to avoid, and if we can just do a good job of avoiding these things and be as far away from that as possible, only good things can happen. Just do the opposite of what was done here.
Right.
It's a great playbook.
And you know what's funny? I think that the present day events that are playing out are proving, if that's how he felt, they're proving him right. Right? America continues to prosper, and China is dying. And they are dying fast. They are dying at a rate that they'll never be able to turn around.
I have not heard that.
Yeah, they're in a something we had touched on briefly right just before we started. They are in a period of demographic collapse that is irreversible. So basically, they had the one child policy, and one child policy was in place for too long, and their
Isn't that
culture.
crazy, by the way?
No, crazy.
That the government can tell you how many kids you can have?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
that's weird.
It's as intrusive as it gets, right? It's as big government
I mean,
as
that's
you can get.
government in your bedroom.
That's government in your bedroom.
Isn't that wild?
I mean, and we see what happens when you allow government to be that involved in your life, right? It's killing their country, and they're not going to be able to save it. I think that if you look at the demographic data, there is a very real possibility that we see this is the end of the Han Chinese ethnicity as we know it, right? There's a very real chance. I don't know, maybe they could survive, but I don't know how, because culturally, right, Han Chinese in particular, place extreme value on a firstborn son. And unfortunately, another reason why maybe communism's not so great, like women are not valued there. And so what you have is a terrifically imbalanced population that does not have enough capability to have more kids where they can reach replacement rate. So they are dying. They are literally dying.
And the government doesn't make it. We're not going to force you to have 4 children.
Well, they're trying, right? They're trying with tax credits and incentives for families to have more kids. They know they're in trouble. But there's nothing they can do right now, right? Because one of the things that my co-founder, JD, taught me, right, is that the beauty of math is that it's always right. Math is not subjective, right? When you get a mathematical answer, it is the mathematical answer. There's no negotiating with it, right? And in the case of the PRC today and their population, the math is the math. And that math shows that that country is going to implode.
With Trump in office too, and putting in these sanctions, or not sanctions, but
Tariffs.
Tariffs. That's the word. It's his new favorite word. Soon to probably become many of our favorite words if employed correctly. But yeah, it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, and that's why there's some hawks out there, right, that believe that if they understand demographics, that's why they feel that the PRC will become aggressive with Taiwan in the next few years, because they're basically going to reach a demographic terminal point where they will not have the ability to have enough military age males beyond probably about 2027 to mount an assault if they're going to, right?
Wow.
So
very interesting.
I'm not making any commentary on whether they will or not, but like there is demographic data to support that theory about when they would get aggressive.
We're going down a wormhole. This is very interesting.
Yeah.
But what did you say? We're experiencing a little bit of this in the United States. A lot of folks choosing not to have children, or waiting very long to have children, or maybe only having one. And then we have other ethnicities from outside the United States coming in, and they're having as many kids as they can. So
yeah,
see how those numbers play out.
We'll see how those numbers play out. Certainly, against this is a kind of a hot button topic, right? That I'll attempt to navigate deftly.
Yeah.
But I mean the first world, right, is in demographic decline also. Population, birth rates that are below replacement. That's happening. United States, Japan for some time, right? South Korea, I think, is the worst, if I remember from the first world data. All of Europe is in this state, and the big difference for the United States, candidly, is South and Latin America, and South and Central America
coming in.
Coming in, and this is not a statement on immigration or on
just the
border.
math.
It's just the math, right? It's just the math, but without making any type of commentary on any other component of immigration, people coming into the United States will likely save the country, right? How we manage it determines ultimately whether or not it saves the country.
Too much of a good thing.
But in terms of just the math, right, immigration at certain rates can offset our birth rate being below replacement rate.
Interesting. All right, so let's roll into, now you have, you're around 27 years old, give or take, when your paintball store, I'm sorry, bro, it didn't take off for you, you know?
Yeah, right. I don't know what I was thinking back then, but it was...
Yeah, and what is your father thinking of you around this time frame? I think there's some interesting thing happening around this, your age, and what's going on with... It's 2008, coming around 2008.
Yeah, so we're about 2007, 2008. I was prepared. I was at a fork in the road in my own life. I was deciding between business school or the military. My dad
Because
really,
the paintball, to be clear, the paintball thing didn't work out.
yeah,
And
it
so
didn't
now
work out,
it's
right? It went out of
military,
business. Yeah.
business school.
Or business school.
All right.
My dad was pushing for business school. I wanted the military. And then my dad passed away in a motorcycle accident in Arizona. But before everybody goes, and this always happened when he died, like, oh, this is why motorcycles are so dangerous, right? Like, that is exactly how my dad wanted to go out. So I want to be very clear about that. He loved motorcycles, and there were only two ways he wanted to go, either in his sleep or on his motorcycle. He got to go on his motorcycle.
Okay.
And so it was I was totally at peace with it that way, right? But it was still hard to lose my best friend and my dad. And
Sounds like he was definitely a rock of the family.
oh, absolutely, the rock of the family, the glue, the rock, right, the foundation. It was a big blow to the family to lose him. So this is now May of 2008, and so I was, it was emotionally very, very challenging, right? But we had this real estate business that,
And let's talk about that real quick, because your father was big time in the automotive product space. Eagle One builds it up, becomes a household name, sells it
yep, to Valvoline,
to
1998.
Valvoline. I mean, which is killer.
Yeah.
I'm sure he did very well with that. So he then kind of retires in a sense. He's out of that game, but he's got to do something with this money.
Yeah,
And so gets into
commercial real estate, and is just horrendous at it. Like, it's just so bad, right? And one of the things we talked about earlier, right? It was the first time I got to witness what I now call Midas touch syndrome, right? Which is where entrepreneurs start a company, and they prove to be very, very good at it. The market concurs with them, right? And proves that to them. And then they sell it or they move on for whatever reason. And then they think they can do anything, right? They think they can run any company. They think that they're really good. I've seen it now a lot since I watched my dad go through it. And he just was not good at real estate, right? So I kind of took over this company, not really wanting to. And we had about 3 months of cash left. This company was going out of business fast. We were 90 days from bankruptcy
and right at the beginning
of the 2008 recession.
Yeah.
Of what I think they call it the Great Recession, right? So
You're in a bad spot.
I'm in a bad spot.
Horrible spot.
And
just to describe the business, it was how many units, office space?
yeah, I mean, we had three properties. I don't know, we must have had 330 tenants, something like that. A lot of tenants. And we were losing about one tenant a week was going out of business.
And property values
Plummeting, right? Demand for these businesses, insurance companies, brokerages, software companies, you name it. Everybody was having trouble, right? Media studios. We had a very broad spectrum of tenants. The only ones that were doing well were defense contractors, and we had a few of those, thank goodness, because they were not going out of business.
It kept you afloat a little bit.
A little bit, right? But we had 90 days of cash left. Had to come up with something. So, I practically started a new company just with negative resources. I don't say no, I say negative because it was negative. So I had to come up with a plan to turn it around. And I didn't know anything about real estate. Didn't know anything about anything really in that business. I knew less than nothing, right? Didn't know anything about being a landlord, So I just remembered what my dad taught me about basic business early on, which was that financials are the lifeblood of every company. And if you need to learn a business, you go to the financials. And so I did, and I started reading the P&L, the balance sheet. Barely knew what those things were, okay? But I noticed that energy, utilities were the single largest expense line item in the financials. They accounted for basically 35% of the company's top line. And so, right, that's a massive expense. Mm-hmm. And after I got done reading the financials, I started reading the leases, right? And I hadn't really read leases much. I read the one from my paintball store, but obviously we know how that story ended up, right? That didn't go so great. So I was like, okay, I got to read these leases and learn about this business. And I learned that we had a type of lease called full service gross, which is where the tenant writes one check to the landlord and the landlord pays all the bills, okay? But in reading it, I learned that basically if the landlord can reduce expenses, then the landlord just gets to keep more money. And I was like, oh, well, that means if I can reduce the power bill, then we can keep more money.
It's a straight profit at that
yeah,
point.
just straight profit. It might actually save us. So I came up with a plan to reduce energy consumption. I think today the buzzword is algorithm, but at the time I didn't even know what that word was. So it was really just like this plan, this method, right, to reduce energy consumption. I thought we'd make our money back in about 24 months, right? So anybody that's familiar with GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, and 24 months is about the standard by which you determine whether or not you should do a CapEx spend. Are you going to make your money back in 24 months or less? I thought so. I thought we'd reduce energy consumption, maybe 20%, something like that. Again, C math student, so
Okay.
I don't know, maybe, right? But I really didn't see any other choice, right? There was no, hey, let's go out and get more business. Let's go out and get more tenants. Tenants were dying, right? And it was Southern California at that time was one of the epicenters of the recession. So it was brutal, and that was just off the table. It didn't matter how low you cut your rates. There just weren't enough businesses to go around. So it was like, okay, well, we have this revenue stream. So the only thing we can do is see how much of it we can keep. And then maybe we'll live to fight another day. Deployed the plan, figured out a way to navigate local, state, and federal subsidies, basically energy efficiency subsidies, offset a significant amount of the cost, deployed the plan, and the plan went gangbusters. We ended up reducing energy consumption, 62, 68%. I remember it was in the 60s. It was a long time ago now, but I definitely remember it was in the 60s, and it went way past my expectations, way beyond any forecast I had come up with. Who knows how accurate those were anyway, right? And it saved the company.
Went from sinking to actually profitable.
Barely profitable, but enough, right? And because every month that we saved, we were able to save a little bit more cash, and then we're able to build up a little bit of a war chest, and then we used that war chest to build in other advantages. And so what I did is I just kept going down the financials and just going down the next largest expense, right? So then it was broker commissions, and then it was property management expenses, et cetera, et cetera. So we just kept going down those and designing different ways to reduce those expenses. So we did direct leasing. We built a website. We learned about SEO. We started a YouTube channel. We had no subscribers, but back then we had a flip camera, so we would do virtual suite tours with
flip phone.
It was I think it was actually called Flip, right?
Okay.
It was a camera that had like a little mechanical arm that kind of came out and deployed the camera, and then you just plugged the USB stick into your computer. And,
Hey, but you were doing it, man.
yeah, and we're
This has
just
got to be the beginning era of YouTube. I think YouTube was 06,
yeah,
07, 08.
right.
Yeah.
And so it was the very beginning of YouTube. Didn't really know anything about it. Didn't know anything about search. I just knew like people had to start finding our buildings, and we had to find some way to capture leads, right? So back then, phone numbers were still a big deal. People didn't text to see if they could schedule a call, right? Back then, it was just you pick up the phone. So I did a survey of all the buildings that we competed against. And then I bought up, phone numbers were cheap back then, and I bought up every phone number plus or minus one digit to the leasing offices to all of our competitors and had them redirect to our landline, right? Back when we still had landlines. And then I bought up all the domain names and all the misspellings of our competitors so that we redirected those leads to our website.
Sneaky.
Yeah, I mean, look, our back was up against the wall, right? We were in survival mode. Yeah, even though the energy plan was working, we were very much in survival mode. And after we started doing that, it started paying dividends, right? We were starting to get more and more leads, and eventually it became like we were, basically, whether it's like rolling the snowball downhill or whatever, and it just starts to accumulate, get bigger and bigger and bigger. But all those little things were paying off, right? We had YouTube search, we had a blog going on how we were managing the property using software to do direct leasing. We were putting floor plans and maps and our leases and maintenance requests. All of that was going online way before anybody was doing that. And we were just doing it very simply, crudely, like we didn't, I don't know how to code or anything. So we were just using PDFs and DocuSign and simple technologies that were off the shelf but available. And we were just basically being really transparent about how we ran the properties. And we ended up getting a lot of leads that way. And it was kind of where I learned about search engine optimization and stuff like that.
I think it's just so amazing. It just brings me back full circle to little Justin, 10, 11 years old.
The paper shredder.
The paper shredder. Yeah. That's basically what you did. Mm-hmm. You got this big task in front of you, backs up against a wall, and it's make or break. Because you're coming up with some pretty novel stuff. I mean,
certainly back in 2008.
Very novel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you didn't go to school for that. I don't think Oakley taught you that.
Nope.
Your paintball store, I don't know. Maybe there's lessons learned for sure.
Paintball store taught me that digital was important, That's what I learned. I didn't respect digital at the paintball store. And I remembered that lesson leaving there because I'm about 90% sure that we went out of business because I didn't understand digital. And so
big lesson learned there.
big lesson learned. And I think it probably created the opportunity to turn Intermarket around and save it. Right. And
Killer.
And it was, it saved the company. So, we just had to come up with ways that we could generate business without spending any money. Right. And so we had a Twitter account, right? We had a YouTube account. I don't even know if they're still up. Maybe they've purged it by now. Who knows? But
we should go back and look at some of the
I know we
vintage
probably
work.
should, right? Yeah. We might be able to find it if YouTube
I'm sure
hasn't
it's on the
deleted it. It's
internet.
probably there.
Yeah.
And you could probably find some just awful camera work. I mean, I could tell you some terrible stories. My business partner at the time, Matthew, one of my best friends from college, he and two other friends were why I would go back to college again, right? They were the greatest thing to come out of college. Matthew, Nick, and Neil. But Matthew came out after graduating NYU's real estate master's program, and we kind of turned this thing around together. And so if we find those videos, I remember what we used to do. We used to get the maintenance dolly. Okay, and it was like a push cart you'd find at Costco. Okay, and our porters would use them to move paint and ladders and that kind of thing to conduct maintenance on the property. And so what Matthew would do is we mounted a tripod. We just put the tripod on the cart, and then Matthew would push it. We would spray the wheels with WD-40, make sure they didn't squeak, right? And then I would be sitting on the cart, right, with this tripod, and he'd be pushing me through the suite so we could do pans of the suite, right? So you could kind of get a virtual tour, right? We didn't have money for 3D scanning or anything.
It's pre-virtual tour, like you got virtual tour from a dolly.
Virtual tour from dolly. I'm sure if Spider has a internet access over there, I'm sure he could go.
Oh my
type
God.
in. I think it was like
I can picture this.
Old Town Plaza virtual tour or something like that on YouTube. It'll probably come up.
Oh my God.
But it worked. You know, like we had stuff.
Got to bootstrap it, man.
Yeah, we had to bootstrap it, but the tenants loved it, right? It was a way they could get to know the property a lot way before they ever came in. And so by the time they came in, they were kind of like ready to make up the mind. Like, yeah, this sounds great. You guys seem cool. Like,
and by the way, how'd you get that smooth angle?
Smooth.
We hired a team. You don't even want to know. Very expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
It was pretty rough,
man.
right?
What about talk about an entrepreneurial story? And so you take it from the brink of extinction, build it up. Now it's highly profitable. You got tenants. You have tenants booked out for 5 years, right?
Yeah. So eventually we were able to get the rent roll stabilized and build out a really good lease book or a rent roll, right? And I'll just tell the story very quickly because the entrepreneur stories seem to resonate. So one of the things that Matthew and I discovered is that one of our properties was in Old Town, and Old Town in San Diego, for those who don't know it, is very popular on Cinco de Mayo weekend. Mm-hmm. Okay. So parking is a real challenge. It's a confined urban area. Okay. And so we had this idea that we should lease out our parking garage or rent out our parking garage Cinco de Mayo weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so we went to Lowe's. We had this idea. We bought an A-frame for about $20, and then we had this idea to do dynamic pricing for parking, which we had never seen before, but it made sense to us. And so we printed out on 8.5 by 11 desktop printer, $5, $10, $15, $20, $25. And we would slide them in and out of the A-frame, and we would change the price of the parking based on the number of parking spaces available. So Matthew and I had radios, and he would stand out on the street with a bullhorn, and we had these aprons that we bought for $5 from Lowe's and this A-frame, and I would give him a live count of how many parking spaces were available at any given time, and he would change the price from $5 to $25 to basically make sure that the supply and demand curves matched. And we were making tens of thousands of dollars a day in pure cash.
That's crazy. What a
it was
great
awesome.
story.
And it helped to save, just little things like that all added up, and they saved the company.
Wow.
And so that's what helped us eventually lead to stabilized rent roll, and we were able to position the buildings to sell, and we put them on the market in the summer of 2011. And in 30 days, I think we got 45 or 47 bids. I mean, it was absolutely gangbusters how many bids we got, how quickly, because the properties were, relatively speaking, for 30, 40-year-old buildings, they were relatively advanced because of what we had been doing over the previous 3 or 4 years. So sold them really quickly. And was off to the races. August
And
20th.
you did well. We'll just say
Yeah,
you did well.
We did well. August 23rd, 2011 is when they closed.
Looking back, you feel like it was a good move.
Oh, looking back, I was like, man, if I could repeat that move, a second, third, and fourth time in my career, like
That's the way.
that'd be the way, right? But I don't ever want to go back to that. It was very hard to turn that company around and build it up.
Yeah.
Like that was, I had like these. I've actually never shared this publicly, but like I had these PTSD nightmares. I used to have night sweats from rain because our roofs used to leak. They were big roofs. They were old, and before eventually a lot of people may not realize that like when you have a leaky roof, you can't just repair it right away. You have to wait for the weather to give you an opportunity to repair it. So just because roofs are still leaking doesn't mean you have an incompetent or a negligent landlord. There are weather conditions that have to come into play for the roofers to even be able to effect a repair. And so there were numerous times I can remember. 2009, there was, I believe it was El Nino or La Nina, I can't remember, but it's a weather phenomenon where San Diego had an unusual amount of rain. And so we used to get rain and then the roofs would leak, and you'd come in on Monday or you'd get an emergency call from the security guards over the weekend that there was a leak in a suite. And I'd have to go in on a Saturday night or Sunday morning after church or whatever and go clean up a leak. I didn't have anybody else, so it was just me. And sometimes my family helped only once that I could remember, but the rest of the time it was Matthew and I there Friday night, Saturday morning, whatever, cleaning up leaks. So I had nightmares about rain at night until
Most of us are thinking, "Oh, my grass is going to grow. It's going to be nice." You're thinking dollar bills, man. Wow, how much is this going to cost?
right. Then dollar bills we didn't have, especially in 2009.
Wow.
Right? So I don't want to relive that, but it teaches you grit.
Now let's talk a little bit about too, which we haven't got into yet. It's around this time that you're getting this commercial real estate business, up off the ground, and you get to a point where you have a little bit of free time. The business is doing well, and what did you get into at that point?
Yeah, so Matthew and I got the business to a really good place where we were working like 15, 20 hours a week each. It was super efficient, and that was awesome. Being a man of faith, I prayed a lot about it, and I just was thinking that I didn't think that the Lord wanted me to squander this spiritual gift, right, or a spiritual blessing. So I prayed a lot about it, found out that I could go to the police academy part-time after work. So I did. I enrolled and, passed my psych and my CVSA and all that stuff, and went to I can't even remember the name of the community college anymore, but and then basically would leave the office around 3:30 or 4. I'd go to the police academy till about 10 and did that for however long it was, a year or so, give or take.
To pass your
to get all your post hours.
right. It's like a police academy, but just part time.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. Instead of going during business hours, right, you went after hours, and that was it. Yeah, so that was how I got into policing.
So we're going to pause here, take a break. When we come back, we'll get into all of your police stories and how the things that happened to you in law enforcement was a springboard for your next big business venture.
Yeah, cool.
Hey folks, as you may or may not know, I am the owner and founder of DIYcanine.com, which is designed to help you take your dog from zero to hero no matter where you are in the world. We have customers from all over the world that come to our courses to learn how we train dogs to be the best that they can be. So instead of wasting hundreds and thousands of dollars on a questionable trainer that may or may not be able to train your dog, in fact, you are your dog's best trainer. So who better to train your own dog than you from the comfort of your own home? And that's exactly what we provide for you. So if you want to find out more, be sure to check out DIYcanine.com, where we 100% guarantee we will help you train your dog to be the best that it can be, so you have the best trained dog in your entire neighborhood or town. Can't wait to see you there. Now back to the episode. All right, we're back from the break, and so we left off with you getting sworn in as San Diego County's finest.
Yeah, so I joined the San Diego County Sheriff's Department and had a great career. Had a great boss, Don Parker. We kind of bonded as I was coming out of the academy, and he really looked out for me. And I kind of had enough, free time from getting the business to a certain place, where I was kind of a part timer, but I could work basically like 40-ish hours a week sometimes. And it ended up being great. Got to go to a lot of great schools, a lot of great training. because Don always had my back, and I had a great partner in Bob Brown, and it was an awesome time. It was a phenomenal experience. Definitely would not trade it for anything.
And what kind of action did you guys get into? Like, what kind of what were your assignments?
Yeah, so we mostly worked backcountry. So it's not really a common thing, I think, on the East Coast, but in the Southwest, right, you have vast amounts of unincorporated territory, right, where there's no cities or anything like that, right?
We were just talking about this the other day, that there's some counties out there
They're
that
huge.
it's like just the square mileage. Like, and we use the city of Miami as examples,
Yeah.
which we brought up. We're exactly comparing that West Coast to, say, like city of Miami. City of Miami, I think, is 26 square miles, give or take, and we have 1,400 officers to cover that. There's some agencies out there in California, 26,000 square miles or whatever it is, just monstrous. And they have, I don't know, 500 officers. It's like,
Yep.
well, how do you guys patrol that?
Yeah. In our case, right, we had, I think at the time we had 16 helicopters, 12 helicopters, right? And then we had like our team, which was responsible for basically like the alpine high desert areas and some of the border parts. Right. Obviously border patrol is responsible for the border, but we had kind of like the county line behind the border, and the off-road recreation areas. So all kinds of things. So we would get all kinds of different, call outs and missions. They were super fun, to be honest. Like, we did a lot of missing persons or a lot of, manhunt type stuff, because there's just frankly a lot of places to hide, right? Evidence recovery, you name it, right? It was super fun though, because we had a fairly, as law enforcement goes, we had a fairly expeditionary capability, right? We had training to do land navigation. We knew how to do that. We had helicopter training, so we could insert
on a
via
helo,
helicopters. We did that all the time. We were also trained up on quads, right? So we knew how to work four-wheelers. We had dogs. Some of the guys were trained up on mountain bikes. Didn't use that too often. You learn pretty quickly that that's not great in mountains, right? If you got to go up them. But the quads were super useful. So we had all kinds of cool assignments. And then I guess, fast forward to July 2011, we had a call out, which was a super interesting case that was referred to us by the FBI. And we had basically a lover's quarrel with a recently separated Marine. He was 26 years old. He was a scout sniper and wanted to go, take out these other two people involved in their lover's quarrel. So we had to go find him. And we were out in this town called Pine Valley, which is 4,000 feet above sea level. And it was July, so it was about 99 degrees. And as you know, we're in the Southwest, it's very dry. So
Very arid desert,
very
type,
arid desert.
mountainous.
Yeah. But 4,000 feet, you start to feel it when you're carrying, 20, 30 pounds on you. And I started thinking, like, this other guy, we were in pretty decent shape, right? We were reasonably well trained, not the best, but we were reasonably competent. And this guy was just better in every way, right? When we read his jacket, it was like, yeah, okay, this dude's like a 300 PFTer, right? Expert rifle, expert pistol, like scout sniper. Like, this guy's going to be formal. And he happened to be from that area.
Right.
So
We're in his backyard.
We're also in his backyard. Great. Right. So I started thinking, like, well, how do we get a competitive advantage over a guy like this? Right. This is going to be tough. Right. And
just to be clear, your boots on the ground trying to track this guy,
exactly,
catch up to him. But
luckily we didn't have to do the tracking. We had some Borstar and Bortac guys assigned to us for this particular mission. So they were kind of doing the jump tracking, and then we had U.S. Forest Service personnel assigned to us. They were doing the navigation. Our job was basically that we were in charge of the case and then coordinating the assets. Right. The FBI was helping us out with these Suburbans that they had at the time. I don't know if they still have them or not, but they had these Yakima-like looking ski boxes on the top, and they were providing us the information on trying to zero in on his cell phone. Right.
okay,
So
like a mobile cell tower type.
yeah,
setup,
I don't know what it was called. I didn't, I wasn't part of any of that type of team. I just knew, like, the FBI had these assets. They had these Suburbans. We're borrowing them, right? Sure. Or I think they had their agents working them. And then they were pinging his cell phone and guiding us, right? So it was really neat to work on a team like that, right? I learned a lot of things. One, Border Patrol are the best trackers I've ever seen. They're amazing. I love working with them. They're very fit, super professional. Love those guys. U.S. Forest Service, they are amazing at land navigation. Boy, do they know land nav, right? They know every tree, every bush, every plant. I was super impressed with them too. And yeah, it was just really fun. So we had to kind of zero in on this guy, and I got thinking about how do we create a competitive advantage. Can't get rid of the rifles, can't get rid of the armor, can't get rid of the helmets, et cetera, et cetera. So I just started thinking, well, I remember reading about this study that was done at Stanford by Dennis Grahn and Craig Heller, two biologists. They invented something called the Stanford cooling glove, which they figured out if you apply a certain amount of cooling to the body, or technically it's if you remove a certain amount of heat from the body during and after exercise, you could beat steroids. And they did this, I believe, under a DARPA grant. Anybody can reference check this. Just Google Stanford cooling glove, and all of this will come up. And so I started thinking, like, it's a really cool device in terms of what it does for you, but it's not super practical because it occupies your hands, right? It's basically this hard shell plastic glove that creates a vacuum, and then it has a metal cylinder in it, and it pumps cold water through the cylinder. It extracts the heat from these special blood vessels, or vascular structures that you have in the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet and your face, called AVAs. I'm not smart enough to be able to pronounce what AVA actually stands for, something astomoses. And it's awesome, right? It takes a ton of heat out of your body very, very efficiently, but right, obviously you have your hands occupied with this glove, and you're connected to a power source, to a pump, to a cooler, to a wall outlet.
Can't be using it
Can't really,
out in the desert tracking a potential homicide suspect.
Can't do anything, right? You got to sit in a chair and just hang out.
It's not helping you when you need it.
It's not helping
you in a lab.
Sure, right.
Proof of concept.
Gym setting, right? Great.
But you're out there doing the work.
Doing the work, right?
And you're like, just hot, man.
Yeah, exactly.
We got to take a break. And every time you take a break or whatever, this guy's still humping it and creating more distance.
And we had a pretty cool PT test, right? The PT test for our team was an 8-mile cross-country hike, because that was, I think, with a politically acceptable term.
Timed?
Yeah, it was timed.
Oh, yeah. So it's legit.
With a 20-pound pack,
Okay.
In uniform color boots, uniform pants, uniform color shirt, etc. And the 20-pound pack was kind of that, plus the cross country and the 8 miles. Like it was a pretty decent test, But anyway, this guy was still better. Right? This guy was pretty fit. And
I guess you could argue too, even if you did catch up to him, how capable are you at that point?
Right. Right. Those types of conditions, they can degrade even fit people very quickly. Right. Yeah. So these biologists figured this out. And I was just like, how do I get that, but out here? Right. And so I remembered from T-CCC, they taught us how to address hypothermia and heat stroke, which, I'm sure you probably remember from your T-CCC training, right? You just put cold packs or heat packs.
And that's combat casualty care?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And, heat packs or cold packs, depending on if you're trying to treat hypothermia or heat stroke. And what you're doing is just conductively adding, or you're conductively removing heat from the vascular system. And I was just like, well, okay, well, that works, right? That's taught to every medical professional in the world at every level, right? MDs, RNs, PAs, EMTs, paramedics, everybody is taught this, right? So how do I combine that into something that I can carry out here? And I was like, oh, well, I'm wearing compression shorts, right? Compression base layers are a thing. What if I merge the two? Finished the mission and went home, called my mom, and I asked her if I could.
So this is all going through your head while you're out there tracking after this guy. Mm-hmm. There's got to be a better way.
Yeah, got to be a better way, right? And, it was intermittent thoughts, right? It wasn't the whole time, but then I just kind of like tabled it, and I'm like, I'm going to come back to that after we are done with this, right? So after we were done, I called my mom, drove over to her house, borrowed her sewing machine, asked her, didn't really realize very quickly I didn't know how to work a sewing machine, and had her help me stitch together pockets and break my Nike and Under Armour compression shorts and create these little pockets that went over the femoral artery that held otter pops.
And which we'll get to in a minute, but the femoral artery, you would inner thigh, kind of groin area.
Exactly, right? And right, for all the other professionals watching this, they know that is the largest superficial vascular exposure, right? And if you nick the femoral, you can die really quickly, right? I remember we were told that if you nick the femoral, you could die on the operating table. I'm not a surgeon. Mm-hmm. I have no idea if that was true, but I just remember it from our texts and from instruction. So I was like, okay, well, that's a place to start.
But it is a great place to tap into, you could say, the body's HVAC system. Like it's a great place to tap in and start cooling the body down.
Right.
Hands and feet, I think, are like you had mentioned through the study, is great, but we can't tie your hands up with some ice gloves. It's not going to work really.
Yeah, and right on your feet, right? You already have all of your load bearing is on your feet anyway, right? Your pack, your armor, your radio, everything is dependent on your feet. You've got to keep
You don't want to
that.
put more weight or anything there.
And you can't put anything that's too complicated down there, right? So you have to keep things simple, right? Again, C student. And so I was like, okay, well, let's just put these things on the femoral.
And then, so you created these pockets. I had to look this up as you were telling me.
Yeah.
What were you sticking in these pockets?
Otter Pops, right?
So for those who don't know what Otter Pops, it's a freaking popsicle.
It's a popsicle.
It's like
in a
those
bag,
cheap, like
right?
$1 popsicles, like my kids like them,
Yep.
But I was like, that's stupid. Why would you put sugary crap down by your groin? It's just what a gross mess that would make. But then I thought about the packaging. It's like, those things are kind of bomb-proof.
Right, because they're sealed.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a
Great
thick plastic.
Yeah,
right?
but I was also like the size of it. It's long, it's skinny, it's
basically like a Chemlite. Right?
Yeah, like a Chemlite.
It's
sure.
a Chemlite popsicle.
Not too big, not too small, just the right size. I guess if you orientate it right, it's probably running along the femoral.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the more I thought, I'm like, it's pretty smart.
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere. And
Yeah.
you started with cherry flavored freaking Otter Pops down by your groin.
I went to Costco on my way to my mom's house. I picked up I think it was a 48 pack, right? of Otter Pops, a 48 box.
You just think about how this company got started.
Yeah. Well, I think this is like one of my favorite parts of the American dream and of entrepreneurship, right? Is like, I don't know if people realize like what it really takes to start a company. And you have to, not every company starts like Uber with, tens of millions of dollars of VC money behind you, right? Or like Apple, where you have one genius and another genius get together. And then like, after your first year, you have $1 million company, your second year, 10 million, your third year, 100 million. Like those stories just don't happen. Most companies start
out of someone's garage.
Right.
Literally.
My dad's company.
My dog training.
Right.
Your mom's sewing room or whatever.
Right.
With some ice packs from Costco.
My dad's company, right? All that him and my mom could afford back then was a small 1-bedroom apartment. I think it was in Seal Beach, California back then. And they couldn't afford a lab or anything, right? So my dad was mixing chemicals in their kitchen, right? Ordering 55-gallon drums. Or you probably get like reported under the Patriot Act today for doing
He's
that.
Cooking
right?
up the next tire cleaner.
Right, exactly, right? He's trying to clean wire wheels, right? Ordering acids and bases and mixing them in his kitchen. Like, that's just kind of what it takes.
You got to start somewhere.
He didn't have any money.
That's why I thought when you came to your mom, you're like, Mom, I'm going to hijack your sewing machine. We're going to stick ice packs in my underwear. She's probably like, and I asked her, like, she didn't think you were crazy?
No, because she was used to my dad, right? Like, they were scrappy, right?
Yeah,
you had to be scrappy, right? They were broke and they had an idea and they had to find a way to make it real, right? So you do what you have to do.
So here you are with your homemade gangster like Batman underwear.
Yeah.
With flavored ice packs, popsicles.
Popsicles, yes, sealed popsicles. Exactly right.
All right, so you put them on for the first time?
Yeah. So I put them on, and then I put my ruck on, and then I went for a 5-mile run, right?
And what'd you think?
And I was like, okay, cool, right? What happened was largely what I expected to happen. So I expected to still sweat and be hot, okay? I just expected to feel less fatigued, and that's exactly what happened. Now, it's very different. Fast forward to today, right? At Qore Performance, we would never do a "do you feel better" test, right? We test things empirically now, but I didn't know any better back then, and I was just trying to figure out, like, is this worth spending more time on?
Sure.
And I just kept doing it day after day.
What'd you get, like 30 minutes of life out of these ice pops or what?
Those back then, I bet you I didn't even get 15 or 20.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. But what I learned very quickly, which was a principle that applies to Qore Performance today, is that thermoregulation is very much like, think of it like a booster rocket on a Falcon 9 or a Falcon Heavy, right? Those booster rockets are designed to put the Dragon capsule into orbit with call it a full tank of gas, or in the case of the space shuttle, put the orbiter into orbit with a full tank of gas. They're not designed to last the whole mission because they don't need to, right? Our TCCC base layers, later Ice Plate, and soon Ice Flask all work exactly the same way. They are booster rockets that are designed to put you farther right on your mission timeline with a full tank of gas.
Right.
And
so when you catch up to that
bad
scout
guy,
sniper that's ready to
Yeah.
put the hurt on you, and you need to move to cover with speed.
you've got more gas in the tank than he does.
Yeah, you don't want to arrive gassed.
Exactly. Right. Or if you are gassed, you're just less gassed than he is. Right. It's not there's not a panacea, right? There's no such thing as a silver bullet, but it is a distinct physiological competitive advantage because basically it provides a pathway of less resistance for your body to dump heat rather than using sweat, right? And that's what all that these otter pops were doing.
Keeping you cool.
Just keeping you cool. It wasn't a ton of
You
capacity.
see that? Like, I'm a big car guy. Mm-hmm. When your car, you got to watch that. You got to have that gauge up, the engine oil temp. And if that temp passes a certain point, you got a problem.
You got a problem, right? Yeah. And
just got to keep it cool.
Exactly.
And we find that a lot with turbocharged cars, whatever. It's keeping.
Hybrids, electric cars.
Yeah, even then, right? Mm-hmm. His Tesla's outside.
Yes.
And his Tesla's got a mind of its own. What is it doing now? It's like, it lowered the windows. It's cooling itself.
Right,
like,
or it's warming the battery.
Crazy,
because it's too cold out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I learned a lot of this. This is kind of like the I guess the universe like conspires to put you in places, right? I learned a lot about thermodynamics from running the real estate company, because I learned that buildings are very much like a human body, right? They have electrical systems, our nervous system. They have hydraulic systems, right? Our muscles. They have frames, right? Our skeletal system, et cetera, et cetera. So, right, they have vascular systems, right? HVAC in a building's case, blood vessels for us. And you move energy and you move heat around, right? Using these various assets and these various systems, and how they all work together kind of determines what your physiological performance in the field can be.
Right. And so here we're coming full circle again. To save your father's company, your family's company, it was cutting cost. And the biggest cost at the time was energy expenditure, which we know is going to be that HVAC. It's just going to be that AC running out there in those California summers.
Yep.
And literally make or break your company if you could get those under control. And once you got that under control, we were rocking and rolling.
Absolutely.
And now we're doing it from, instead of commercial space, we're doing it on the human body.
Yep.
Which is wild. It's just wild. These whatever you want to call them just keep coming up. So all right, so continue. So now we got the crazy
we got
Justin
crazy
Lee
otter
underwear.
pops. Yeah. So there was a little bit of a break there where I was kind of, after I had sold the business and I was trying to figure out what I wanted my next move to be, and I had an old friend.
I'd really love to hear the first pitch. Like, bro, I got these ice
underwear. You want to hear?
I got the ice underwear, man. And then, like, if anything else, you got cherry popsicle on standby.
So we went through. So my co-founder, JD Wilcox, he's no longer with the company. He retired from the business last year. But when we had always wanted to start a business together, right? So we met his freshman year at Stanford. My best friend, Chris O'Riordan, they were teammates at Stanford baseball. JD was an engineering student, and JD and I just hit it off. Same value system, right? Our minds think similarly. He's 10 times smarter than I am. So he's a mathematical genius, just understands systems and numbers like nobody I've ever met still. And we just always been like, oh, we should start a business together someday, right? When we were 18 or 19. And so fast forward to, he was working in an energy derivatives hedge fund, and he had decided he wanted to do something, what he termed to me like, more valuable, not necessarily more economically. Right? Obviously, he had a hedge fund. He was economically very well off, but he wanted to just do something different where it's more impactful, right? So we had talked about a lot of different business ideas. So if you want to hear the ridiculous highlights from that, right? We looked at a lot of problems that we thought we wanted to solve. So transparency in commercial real estate, we felt that was missing badly. And we came up with a couple of ideas to address that. We thought that luggage was in dire need of modernization. Basically, think modern carry-ons. We didn't know that somebody else was working on this very idea, a company that would later be called Away. But we had a lot of what would end up being very similar ideas. We looked at another idea that we later found was also being pursued by another entrepreneur who we very much loved and supported, which was moisture wicking dress shirts. In fact, the one that I'm wearing is that company, Mizzen in Maine. Love them. Kevin Lavelle, I believe, is the founder's name. And JD and I met him when he was just hawking his shirts door to door in Dallas in like 2014 or something like that. I don't remember when he started his company. And I was one of the very first customers, and so was JD. We loved that idea. But then we were like, okay, that guy's doing it already. No need for us to go there. And we had looked at pallet recycling. So we were fascinated by garbage and pallets and trash. The idea of, could we turn one man's trash into another man's treasure, right? And then this idea. So yeah, we had all kinds of crazy concepts that we were looking at, but we settled on this one because we thought that it provided the most value to America potentially.
Yeah, an untapped market.
Yeah, untapped market, but we saw something that could be both commercially and military. Like it could apply to both the military, a law enforcement, and an enterprise market. We thought that was very cool, and it was important to both of us that we could do something that could positively impact as much of America as possible.
So you got him on board.
Yep. Yeah. So we started the company in 2015. Put our much more refined base layers, but on Kickstarter in December of 2015.
And that initial concept was, like you said, like a compression shirt and compression shorts.
And sleeves.
And sleeves that would carry some type of cooling properties, or in this case, like an ice pack of some kind.
Yeah, ice pack, or which we had custom made by that point, or a heating.
Yeah, you all weren't using ice pops.
No otter pops. We had figured out a way to encapsulate, a custom cooling.
But strategically placed, comfortable, all that good stuff. So that, what's the point if it's not comfortable? No one's going to wear it.
Yeah, exactly. So put it on Kickstarter. We did, okay. Like we met our goal, $25,000, something like that. It was just enough to be like, okay, well, we did it, right? But while we were doing it, these contractors from TRADOC, from the Army, found us and said, hey, would you guys be interested in working on body armor cooling for soldiers? We see what you're doing. We did the math. You're at about 15 watts. We need 140.
And explain that, if you will.
Yeah, sure. But what they were tasked with was finding, tech-oriented startups that were working on big Army problems. That was their language that they used. And so we were like, cool, what's the big Army problem that we're working on? We really had no idea. They were like, oh, body armor cooling for soldiers. It's a massive problem. It costs the U.S. taxpayer billions and billions of dollars. And it's a big problem for us. The bluff TLDR is just that when you take a 18, 19, 20-year-old private into basic training, they're not yet, military grade fitness. If they get a heat injury during basic training or during their, early parts of their career, you have to medically retire an 18, 19, or 20-year-old. They've had heat stroke. They're permanently changed forever, right? Because heat stroke changes your physiology permanently.
So this millions, if not billions of dollars that they're researching into this problem and many other problems, they see this little Kickstarter startup company and they go, let's see what we got here. So they reach out to you and start sharing with you.
Yeah, basically they said, hey, if we send you the data, would you guys take a hack at the problem? And we were like, too dumb to say no. We should have, probably.
Yeah. But tell us about that 140 versus 15K, the watts. I don't know anything about it.
Sure. So what they had found is they told us that in their research, which they had spent, I think they told us they had spent $300 million on researching this problem.
Jesus.
Yeah. Over I don't remember, 20 years or something like that.
And still haven't found a solution.
They came up with a solution that they shared with us. It was a cooling vest that you wear underneath your armor, and you carry around a 7.8 pounds. I will never forget that number as long as I live, right? Because it was very specific. 7.8 pounds of lithium-ion batteries in a pump. And
what did it do? Pump water?
Yeah, it pumped what's called phase change material, which we used in our base layers. And it basically just is a petroleum derivative that's got a pretty decent specific heat or latent heat, basically how much energy it can store.
Sure.
And they expected the soldiers to carry around this box, right? This 7.8 pound lithium ion battery and pump box, and it would circulate cool PCM through this vest that they would wear under their armor. But when the batteries ran out, they were basically just wearing a plastic vest underneath their body armor in Iraq or Afghanistan.
Right.
It would just be a
heavy plastic, non-breathable
oven. Yeah, essentially human oven. So
it worked great when it
for 30 minutes or something. Right.
And who wants to carry that around? It's goofy.
Right. And they learned that very, very quickly. Right. So
$300 million. That's what they came up with.
Yeah. Right. Well, they at least had the data to share with us. Right. So they told us hit this 140 watt number.
And that number being, if you can extract this much heat, I guess you could call it, from the body, which is 140 watts.
Yep.
That's the target number. We found that's where we see, such and such significant improvement.
Right.
Which is the same with your underwear. What do you think your Gen 1 underwear with the ice pops were getting?
Oh,
if you had to guess.
2 watts.
Okay, 2 watts.
2 or 3 watts.
But you noticed it. 2 watts. But hey, if you could get it up to 140 was the key number.
Yeah, 140, they told us at that rate, at that number, you could prevent heat stroke with soldiers in MOP gear, right? So chemical warfare equipment in Iraq in August. That was the verbiage that they used with us, right? So this was before they had shared the actual data, but they said basically that's what we're after, right? So what we're after is a solution that can stop heat stroke in the most intense of circumstances.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Right. We have no idea what that is. Right?
And you guys, what did they say your number was at?
They figured that our system, the long sleeve shirt plus the base layer shorts, was at about 14 or 15 watts.
So that's a big
10x, right? Yeah, we needed 10x to get to their target. And wait for it, here's the best part. They wanted no added weight, universal compatibility, no batteries, no moving parts, no power systems, and had to work with like men and women and universal body armor compatibility. We're like, that's crazy, right? So JD and I started looking at everything under the sun, right? And I would come up with ideas, just got to throw him his way. He'd kind of do the math. And we looked at kinetic energy recovery. We looked at photovoltaics. We looked at wind turbines, right? I mean, just absurd concepts, right? Like, could you put a wind turbine in a soldier's helmet? Mm-hmm. And if so, how much power could you derive from that, right? Could you put an impeller or a propeller on the top of a helmet? I mean, you look like an idiot, right? But like, could you capture wind energy that way, right? Could you create a camouflage battle uniform out of photovoltaic cells, right? Could you line a battle uniform with basically devices to capture kinetic energy, much like a Formula One car?
But then that energy would fuel a battery that would maybe fuel a pump or
right.
fans or something.
It was way too complicated of a system, but that was all we could think of. So fast forward to January of 2016, 1 month after the Army had thrown this idea our way, and I'm having dinner with my buddy Marcus Capone. So this was the story I'm about to tell can also be found in our Wall Street Journal article. The Wall Street Journal wrote an article on us in August of this year, and they interviewed Marcus for it. So if people want to read about it, they can go to that article and find it. But Marcus was telling me, so Marcus was part of Naval Special Warfare Development Group, right? And he was relaying, obviously very fit, very elite warfighter, and telling me that he's like, oh yeah, Justin, your base layers, they remind me of what we already do overseas. And I was like, oh, what's that, Marcus? And he's like, oh, we freeze bottled water and then we jam it in our plate carriers in our pants pockets before we go out on mission. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, well, we got to carry the drinking water anyway. And yeah, your body heat melts the ice in like half an hour, but hey, it keeps you cool for half an hour. It's better than nothing. At least you start the mission a little bit cooler and then you just drink the water. And that was my light bulb moment. And I was like, oh my gosh, water's the battery. I'm thinking about this all wrong, right? JD and I have been thinking about this all wrong. So water is also consumable, and every soldier is issued, or every warfighter is issued a 3-liter Camelback bladder, right? So I'm like, I call JD and I'm like, hey, how much power is stored in 100 ounces of water ice? And he was like, geez, Justin, that's like pretty tough math, right? Did some, call me back 10 minutes later. He's like, I think it's about 147 watts, give or take. And I was like, holy crap, I think we've done it, right? And he was like, what have we done? And I was like, I walked him through the logic sequence, right? Soldiers are issued a 3-liter Camelback. That's 100 ounces of water. Marcus and his buddies, and apparently everybody else, is freezing bottled water and then jamming it in their plate carriers. So if we reshape the water bottle, we reshape the Camelback, and then we just give them a new water bottle that attaches to their torso. We capture the existing behavior. We use existing water. We don't add any weight. And then we just have to reshape the water bottle, and so in a way that works with every piece of body armor in the inventory. And he's like, well, what's the one piece of equipment that is universal to every piece of body armor? And then as soon as he said that question, he was like, oh, it's the armor plate. And I'm like, exactly, it's the armor plate. So let's shape the water bottle like the armor plate. He's like, how the hell are we going to do that? And so we just kind of like figured it out, and we figured out that we could blow mold basically a medium ESAPI shaped water bottle.
Yeah, show us one.
Which is this. So this is the ice plate. This is ice plate curve, which is our current generation.
So this is not your first model, but
right.
Your first model was something to this effect.
Something similar, right? It was 10 by 12. It was called Ice Plate Classic, but this ice plate curve, it's basic idea, right? You shape the water bottle like an armor plate. You fill it with hot water in the wintertime, or you fill it with regular water and you freeze it in the summertime. You wear it underneath your armor. As your body heat melts the ice, you drink the water. And so
like a Camelback, but that does more than just carry water.
Right. So it can deliver up to 4 benefits with the water weight that you're already carrying, right? The hydration is obvious. It can also do conductive cooling, conductive heating, and it can provide impact protection. So basically, if you wear it under a soft armor vest like you and I used to wear, it will basically eliminate back face deformation. Don't have to take my word for it. We did a test. We copied the NIJ protocol, and then we videoed the whole thing and published the results on our website so people can watch the whole uncut video if they would.
Sure. I mean, anything to help slow a bullet down or the fragmentation coming back off of the
Right.
actual body armor can't hurt.
Right.
One more thing between you and a bullet can't hurt.
No, it's basically it's a waterbed or an airbag between your soft armor and your body.
Yeah, makes sense.
Of course, it's going to eliminate the back face deformation.
Yeah, and they got to carry the water anyways. They got to carry the weight anyways. Might as well put it to use.
Exactly.
It's free. It's genius. I'm not just saying that because you're here, but as you're talking through it, I'm like, Jesus, man.
Again, very simple. C previous, C student, right?
Yeah.
Just came
But
up.
having the right conversation with the right person at the right time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the universe kind of throwing you a bone there.
Yeah, it was the paper shredder of my 30s, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking as you were talking about it. It's just solving a problem.
Just solving a problem, right?
Killer.
But I had to keep it simple.
But this is just the beginning now. All right, so you have this concept, and then, I mean, it seems like it happened fast, like one domino to the next.
Yeah, right. I guess kind of like your story, right? Like everybody always thinks these things are overnight successes, right? Over the course of 10 years.
No, there's a lot of grind
yeah,
happening.
there's a lot of grind.
There's grinding happening.
Yeah, there's tons of grind behind the scenes, right? That nobody sees. But yeah, we had a bunch of debt that we had to pay off. We learned about government contracting and the perils of it for the first time. And short story long, we sold our first ice plates August 1 of 2016, and then a little under 2 months later, I think it was September 23rd. It's on our website if people want to look it up. But we got a live chat from a gentleman named Kevin who worked at Chick-fil-A in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he had heard about our system and asked us to adapt it to their drive-thrus.
Now, before we get into the Chick-fil-A, I know your first purchase, the first sale, you can't even talk too much about.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a way we could talk about it without talking about it. But understanding that the gentleman that first approached you with this concept, telling you that these high-speed guys, special forces guys, tier 1, are stuffing, and they have unlimited budget.
Right. Especially back then.
Yeah, and they're going to frozen water bottles that they're sticking in.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, you stay in close contact with that community, we should say. Word does spread that there's this new product on the market. I mean, it's in infancy. But let's just say one of these secret squirrel units is made aware of it and said, hey, let's get our first order from you. That was your first order.
That was our... I believe our first online order was with a... I think our first online order was with a gentleman named Edgar, and he was a armored truck security guard. This was the first order that we got basically via the phone.
Okay,
right?
okay.
Yeah, but it happened same day.
Yeah, but super interesting.
Super interesting.
So between Edward, who's sporting and super practical. This guy's sweating it up in an armored truck.
Yeah, very practical. Exactly what we did.
But your first big order, can you say how many units? It wasn't huge, but it was...
No, it wasn't huge. I think it was 70-something units.
Okay, but what's cool is, it was, it's cool. I don't want to breeze over it. And there's certain things we can say and can't say, but let's just say super secret squirrel unit. They said, look, you're the only ones that got this cool thing. We got to try it because we got nothing. And so you meet in a parking lot, envelope of cash.
And I handed him a box of ice plates.
And those ice plates have, I guarantee you, been places and seen some things. That's for sure. We'll just say that. Which is super cool. But then in that community, that's got to spread like wildfire, which is, it's just to talk about a great client. I mean, our business was built on word of mouth. And now you've got said people who, again, they're doing said things, wearing your gear, and obviously they love it because it just kind of starts to spread.
Yeah, it was really neat. And that particular, we'll just call it group, right? They're, I think, still one of our largest customers today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that neat?
Which is super cool. Yeah. Yeah. And like I had mentioned to you earlier, right?
Talk about proof of concept. I mean, like, they love it.
Yeah, they love it.
And now they're not ordering it 70 at a time. They're going
more than that, right?
Department-wide or
organization-wide.
Organization.
Right?
That's a safe word. Awesome. But at the same time, so that's in the military side of things, was your next, first client or big order, you just started telling us about it.
was Chick-fil-A, Scottsdale.
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
I'm just getting
Chick-fil-A,
hungry thinking
Scottsdale,
about it. I
Arizona.
know what I'm doing for lunch today.
Right.
Is it Sunday? No.
It was
Thank God.
super cool. If memory serves, and again, we preserved this live chat because like our company is extremely transparent, right? And so we published this on the About Us section of our website. And it was a gentleman named Kevin. He live chats us. I think it was around 11:23 p.m. on a Sunday night, I think, something like that in September.
So he pings you off the
26.
website?
Yeah, just pings us off the website, right? And maybe it was a Friday. I don't remember. But Doug and I, one of our early team members, we were just up. We were in San Diego for the Miramar Air Show, hawking ice plates, and that particular weekend was very hot in San Diego. It was like over 100 degrees, and we sold 100 ice plates in like I think it was like 24 hours. Like
Just civilians.
Oh yeah, I mean we were selling them as fast as we possibly could.
And what was the price point back then?
What did we sell them back then at that air show? I'll be honest, I don't remember. I think we were selling them for like $50. Something like that. But at that Miramar
people
Air
buying
Show,
like fans and all kinds of gizmos and gadgets to keep you cool.
well, we were selling them filled with water and frozen.
Yeah,
at
ready
the
to
air
go.
show.
Put 'em on.
ready to
Instant
go.
cooling.
And it was gangbusters. Yeah.
How were they strapped at that point?
Oh, it was terrifically crude, embarrassing, frankly. At this point, we went to REI and we bought these like. I don't remember how long they were. I want to say 64-inch sections of 1-inch nylon webbing that had side release buckles at the end. And then we would lace them through the strap loops.
Okay.
Right.
I see.
Yeah. These strap loops here. And you could wear it like a backpack.
Yeah.
It was far from perfect. It was really quite hideous. It was ugly, but
But it worked.
it worked.
Yeah. It's like putting a pack of ice on your back. It's literally what it is. Like that'll cool you down.
And that was kind of where we started to learn about virality, because what we learned is the first one we sold early in the morning, that one led to 2 people coming over. Those people then started wearing them, and it was such a different shape to see on a body, right? And it had a blue drink tube. It was just not something people were used to
Because
seeing.
they could drink from it too.
Because they could
even
drink
then.
from it. Exactly. Even then, right. And so what happened, Doug and I learned very quickly, like basically within an hour, is people would just start coming over. I saw this guy. Is this where you got? I went and talked to him. I want that ice pack thingy, right? I want the ice backpack. And so we were like, yeah, sure. Like, okay, I'll take 2, right? And it was just like, then I'll take 1, I'll take 3. And we just learned, like, as more and more people kept going out, the pace of people coming back to buy ice plates was increasing.
That's cool.
It was
to
awesome.
watch it happen right before your eyes.
Yeah. And that's kind of when we were like, I think we're onto something here, right? Like this appears to address a real pain point for people in a novel way that they really liked. And people would come back, and we had a few people come back and ask to buy a second one.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's reusable.
It was reusable.
It's
yeah.
killer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the next day we refilled our freezer, and we saw all those people. They had taken it home. They filled it. They refilled it. They froze it, and they were wearing it the next day. Yeah. So we just had like twice the number of brand ambassadors out there walking around the Miramar Air Show. Yeah. And anyway, so
back to Chick-fil-A.
So they wanted this guy, Kevin, very nice guy. We still love Kevin. And he had just asked, he said, hey, we have people that stand out in the drive-thru to take orders, and they get very hot. We have to rotate them very frequently. We were wondering if you guys would be willing to adapt your military solution to our drive-thrus.
And how did he hear about you? From the air show or?
Well, he claims, the story that he told us, I don't want to say he claims like make it sound derogatory, but the story that he told us is that he found us on Facebook and said that he saw somebody from the military posting about it on Facebook. You and I both know that those guys were not posting on Facebook. So we really, truly, that's actually something we really don't know. Actually, he swears it. I have no reason to, Kevin's not a liar, right? I'm sure he's telling you the truth. It's just what he remembers. But
maybe it was just a photo and they're just wearing gear and like, look at this piece of kit this guy has on.
But yeah, he
zoom in a little bit.
Right, maybe
brand
zoom
name,
in. Yeah. But yeah, he that's what he said. So he found us on Facebook, and then he thought to message us.
So from the front lines of a war zone or wherever it is he saw this photo.
Yeah, wherever he saw this photo. Yeah.
Back to, is this California?
So we were in San Diego at the time doing the air show at Miramar. He was in Scottsdale. So he says,
where the average yearly temperature is 100 and
Yeah,
who knows what.
right, super hot. And he's like, "Hey, when can you come out here? We'd love to demo them." And I told him, I was like, "Well, I've got 6 left. I could drive out first thing Monday morning." He's like, "Yeah, we're closed on Sunday, so that sounds great. How early can you get here?" I was like, "Well, I get there probably by, if I leave early, I could probably get there by 11, 12." He's like,
That hustler's mindset,
"Yeah."
hustler's mentality,
Yeah, I was like, "Okay, well, we got a rental car. I'm going to drive." So I drove out to Scottsdale, Arizona on that Monday morning with 6 frozen ice plates, loaded up a cooler, and by the time I got there 6 hours later, they were still frozen.
Yeah.
They tried them out right away. They bought 2, right? I had 6.
Were they still the kind of crude setup? Like the
Oh,
crude?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But again, right, remember the contrast. They're going from nothing to this,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, it's incredibly crude by today's standards.
Can you talk a little bit about the math, if you will? I know you're a bit of a numbers guy, at least when it comes to efficiency. What was the problem? The problem is they're out there taking your order,
Yep.
speed up that line, and I see those folks out there. They're sweating their ass off
Yeah.
taking your order. Hey, and they got to do it service with a smile, and they are. Hey, I don't know what Chick-fil-A's got going on over there, but now I do. Now
Right.
I know a little bit of what's in the secret sauce. But they're happy to take your order, but they can't stay out there for hours at a time.
Right. So I'm not allowed to discuss anything about Chick-fil-A after about that time frame. So what we can do is we can talk about one of our other favorite customers, Dutch Bros Coffee.
Shout out Dutch Bros Coffee.
Dutch
You want
Bros.
to be a sponsor? I love coffees.
Yeah, I'm sure we could find a way to get you some Dutch Bros. Right. So
So it just so happens though, but how does Dutch Bros come into play?
there's a Dutch Bros across the street from one of these 3 Chick-fil-A's that bought one of the 6 ice plates that we had left from the Miramar Air Show. And they noticed that this Chick-fil-A has their kids outside when it's like 100 degrees. The kids are fine, right? They're just rolling around, taking orders. And the owner of this Dutch Bros knew the owner of that Chick-fil-A, goes over and he's like, "Bro, how do you have your kids out here just unfazed rolling around?" He's like, "Oh, bro, we got ice plates. You don't have ice plates?" And he's like, "What the heck is an ice plate?" And he's like, "You got to call these cats over at Qore Performance. They'll hook you up." And so he gives him my cell phone number and he calls me, and I'm getting on a plane at this point going to, I don't even remember where, but I was getting on a plane because I remember this phone call comes in. This gentleman who's he's probably actually our favorite customer to this day. His name's Josh Hayes. What up, Josh? And he says, "Hey, is this Justin?" And I said, "Yes, sir. May I ask who's calling?" And he says, "Hey, this is Josh Hayes from Dutch Bros, Arizona. We found your ice plates over at Chick-fil-A, and we want to buy some." And he's like, "How soon can you come out here?" And I was like, "Josh, they're about to close the store on a flight. Do you mind if I call you as soon as I land?" He's like, "Absolutely. Please definitely do." Right. So I call him when I land and we set up a time. Doug and I fly out there, I don't know, as soon as we could get a flight back out to Phoenix. We meet with him and this other gentleman named Caleb, who owns the Dutch Bros West Valley franchise. And we did the same exact thing that we did with Kevin and his team. They tested it out right away. They loved it and they bought everything we had.
Killer.
Yeah. So here's the problem that they're solving. Dutch Bros has drive-thrus, right? And they had to, before us, they had to rotate their people out.
Similar model like a Chick-fil-A. Like you roll up, there's folks standing outside to take your
Correct.
order.
They have outside order takers, what I believe they call line busters. And they...
And sorry to keep cutting you off, but I'm just trying to picture this. Arizona, middle of summer.
Right.
It's got to be 110, 120 degrees out, I'm assuming. Like,
Yeah, it's hot.
yeah.
Right?
Bacon. Oven.
Bacon, right?
Oof.
100 degrees is hot enough, right? Anything.
But I know it
over
can get
100
higher than that
is
for
insane.
sure.
Yeah. But yeah, they make great money having people stand outside. And so the summer before us, they had a decent number of heat incidents, right, that were fairly expensive, right, and they negatively impact the employees' lives, right. And Josh is one of the most forward-thinking. He's one of the best business leaders I've ever seen. He is constantly thinking about his people, and he is always thinking out of the box. Every time we talk to Josh about something, we're always like, "Dang, we learned something every time about business from him." He is pushing the envelope all the time, and it shows in his business. He runs one of the best businesses we've ever seen, and we see a lot of companies. And he continues after 8 years or, 7.5 years of us doing business with him, he continues to have one of the best businesses we've ever seen.
And is he a franchisee or is he a...
Correct. He's a franchisee. So his franchise is called Dutch Bros Arizona. And the one across the way in the Phoenix metro area is called Dutch Bros West Valley. That one's the one owned by Caleb. But yeah, Josh is always impressive. We're always learning from him. And the way he explained it, he's like, yeah, we had a certain number of heat incidents last summer. I don't want that to happen to my people ever again. He was just starting to take over a leadership role. It was fairly recent for him at that time, so he really wanted to make a positive impact on his team. And so he just went all in, and he's like, get me as many of these as you can, right? I want them at every stand. And so the summer after us, they went from, that larger number of heat incidents to zero, and them, along with every other client, has been at zero heat injuries with us ever since. So yeah, 100%.
The product works.
Product works.
It's killer.
Right. It's simple
And
physics.
in their case, it's efficiency, it's comfort. And I mean, I've never had to work in a Chick-fil-A line, but boy, oh boy, I've had to wear that vest in the middle of South Florida summer,
right,
tracking for a bad guy. And excuse the language, you're just sweating your damn balls off.
Right.
It's
hot.
Horrible. And the best cooling we had? This maneuver right here. You grab here and you go.
Yep.
And the heat would just hit you in the face, but anything you could do.
Right. You remember when you would get off shift, you remember the rash you would have?
It's just nasty.
It was awful, right?
Those things stank so bad.
Yeah.
But anything you could do, you'd get in front of the air vent of the AC and just try to get air under there because the air's not coming. Just cooking.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
They came up with some pretty cool contraptions. You can stick like a tube. So I've seen all kinds of stuff.
Vent.
Duct tape and tubes, and people are sticking tubes down there. Nothing tactical about that. You're trying to bail out of your car and freaking tubes attached to you. But yeah, it is a thing. And what does it end up happening? Myself included, sometimes you're like, man, I'm not wearing the vest today. I just can't. It's too hot.
It's too hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with Dutch Bros, right, their problem was that they were rotating their people out every 15 minutes in order to mitigate heat risk. But every 15 minutes, it costs you basically 5 minutes of swap out time, right?
Yeah.
So
plus whoever's coming in's probably got to cool off a little bit before they're up and running.
Yeah. So basically the math comes out to every hour if you do rotations every 15 minutes, you're losing 20 minutes of productivity, right? So the short math for us is that ice plate gives an organization back somewhere between 20 and 30% of its labor capacity for about $100, right? $200.
And so that person who could only stay out for 15 minutes can now stay out
1 or 2 hours.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
It's a game changer.
4 or 8x right there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And for being a business owner, you get 4 or 8x return.
Yeah.
You're doing that all day long.
It's not just the money. I mean, but it's also your employees are a lot happier.
You take care of your people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think all the best business leaders take care of their people.
Killer. Well, so what we're going to do right now, we'll take a pause, and when we come back, we're going to get into where Qore Performance has gone from its, early stages, hawking stuff at the airfield, six or so here at Chick-fil-A, and then Dutch Brothers gets jealous, they get theirs. Early beginning stages with those straps you had. I'd love to get a picture of the early unit. It's probably a little ugly. And then where it's gone from there.
Sure.
So cool, man. So cool. We'll be back in just a minute. Meet Perry is a membership-based family office and alternative platform. And the members, like myself, work together to orchestrate opportunities and share in experiences that lead to greater fulfillment in both wealth and in life. Meet Perry connects its members across its digital platform and in person, which allows them to educate and immerse themselves in the world of alternative investing and so much more. The Meet Perry community believes that success is contagious. Generating wealth is not zero-sum, and that when reflecting on your own success, it's all about the people who can support you and encourage you all along the way. Meet Perry is a distinguished community comprised of accomplished individuals. And to be clear, not just anyone can become a Meet Perry member. All potential and aspiring Meet Perry members must be put forward by a current active member to be eligible for consideration for the opportunity to join this amazing but exclusive community. If you want to find out more, make sure to check out meetperry.com or the description below. Attend one of the events that are hosted worldwide and get involved in the community to be considered for this amazing opportunity. All right, we're back from the break, and so let's pick up where we left off. Your name's getting out there just a little bit. Couple of key players, Dutch Brothers Coffee, Chick-fil-A. I mean, these big players in the game. Yeah. And again, an organization that shall not be mentioned are out there testing your products, and it snowballs from there. Yeah. So bring us up to present day.
Yeah, so, from Dutch Bros, a little while later, we landed a deal with Raising Cane's, which is pretty cool.
Dang.
And shortly after that, we landed a deal with Shake Shack. And so both of those guys have our stuff.
It's making me hungry, man.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other neat companies in there. Probably are not. They're as big or bigger, but they're just not the household names. We have, cold food storage packers who
Oh, so
use
they're using the heat.
they use in heating, correct? Yeah, so they use our products to keep their teams warm inside of these sub-zero temperature environments where you pack food.
Hey man, and I hate to talk so much, but like I have experience with that. Before I became a police officer, I used to work EOD dogs, the explosive ordnance
Yeah.
detection bomb dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the contracts that we had was obviously sniffing stuff that went onto cruise ships, but then we also would sometimes go to like the packing centers,
Yeah.
and then they wanted us to sweep there, but it's like the cold food section. So I actually enjoyed it because I was getting cooked
Yeah.
outside. But then if I could go sweep the stuff in the freezers, if the dog was hurting, like it's getting hot, we'd bring the dog into the sub-zero area or whatever it is. It was just cold. It felt like the guys working in there were all bundled up. But I could only be in there like 2 or 3 minutes before I'm like, I got to get the hell out
Yeah,
of
it's
here.
very cold in there.
So man, I could see.
Yeah.
I see it. I could see these guys wearing that.
Yeah.
How long does the heat last?
So they wear it underneath their parkas. It lasts a long time, hours.
Right, because your body heat's kind of keeping it warm.
Yeah, the parka kind of traps the heat. It's just kind of like supercharging your body's natural capabilities, just like it does in cooling mode. But yeah, it's very powerful.
I mean, this is the gear these guys are wearing every day. Like I wouldn't say their life depends on it, but their comfort definitely depends on it.
Comfort is enhanced. Productivity is enhanced. Yeah. You just don't have to. It's kind of the same phenomenon in the heat. You just don't have to take as many breaks, and you're far more energized.
For sure.
Right.
Keeping that body temperature where it needs to be. Yeah. Which when we roll back to, we breezed over quickly. But when they did that initial study back in the day, you said 03 or 04, whatever it was, that, if I may dumb it down for myself and maybe my audience, I don't know, but they did these tests, and long story short, you can have an athlete that's on steroids, or you can have an athlete that's not on steroids. If you can keep the one that's not on steroids body temperature where it needs to be, he will outperform the guy on the juice all day long.
Yeah. Or match.
Yeah. Yeah, because once you get cooked, I don't care how roided out you are or how great a shape you're in. Yeah, like your body's shutting down.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the cool things. Going back to what we had talked about earlier, right? Even though I wouldn't tell my kids, to go to, I wouldn't steer them towards college or university. I do think it's worth tipping our hat to research institutions like Stanford, right? Because without Stanford, like we would never have known this, right? That research function is actually super cool.
Yeah.
So it's not that they don't have any use, right? They have great use, just in specific areas.
Sure.
Right. Not necessarily for everybody, and that's okay.
Man, so you're picking up big companies that are relying on your product. Mm-hmm. Keep going with it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we have metal foundries, basically, companies that are on big blast furnaces all the time, and that's been pretty neat.
How do they find you?
So, interesting question. A lot of them found us when their employees were on lunch and they would drive through a Dutch Bros or a Chick-fil-A or something. And they would tell us that, right? They'd be like, oh, I go to Chick-fil-A for lunch twice a week.
Bro, these guys wearing the ice packs.
Exactly. And then I asked them, I'm like, how are you guys staying cool? It's like 98 degrees out here. And they're like, oh, we got these ice plates. And they're like, what the heck is an ice
Bro,
plate?
call Justin. He'll hook you up.
These kids have no idea
yeah.
They are, right? At this point, it's in hundreds and hundreds of locations. So there's, and to be fully transparent, like not every kid loves it, right? So not everybody wears it.
Sure.
Right? It's like everything else, right? It fits a certain number of people, doesn't fit another number of people, but enough of them are out there that do love it.
Yeah.
How are you cool, right?
Yeah.
And then start the conversation.
That's how you know you got a good product, man. Just word of mouth. That's killer.
So interesting little factoid that we actually don't have a sales team. We have just Doug, our head of strategic partnerships. We have no outbound sales team. We have no inside sales team, no outside sales team, no sales reps. Never have. Basically, we generated all of our business 100% organic until about September of this year, which is when we ran our first paid ad.
Wow.
Yeah, of any form. Before that, the business was 100% organic.
It's like, and so interesting. Like, I would never think of a foundry. I would never think the opposite of that. People working in driving forklifts or whatever in a frozen food section warehouse, whatever.
It's just all kinds of different applications. So how these guys?
And again, and I don't want to. Special forces are using them too. So from the Chick-fil-A driving girl to some tier 1 unit, that's so cool. That's so cool.
General, conventional forces, like Marines, we got customers everywhere, right? We
Hmm.
got a fair number of cops using our stuff, backpackers. I mean, I'll never forget. We had this customer in, I think it was Kissimmee, Florida,
Hmm.
send us a video of him just walking around his neighborhood. He's like, "Yeah, I bought one of your Class 2 ice vests because I like to get 10,000 steps a day, but I work at a computer. I'm a programmer, and it's hot in Florida, and I breaks when I have breaks, right? My job's pretty demanding, so I bought one of your vests, and now I can walk anytime I want, any time of the year, and it's great, right?
That's
It's changed
awesome.
my life."
Yeah.
And here's how cool it is. One day we had a customer who bought our ice plates for CrossFit, driving home from CrossFit in, I believe this was Jacksonville, and he saw one of our customers wearing our Class 2 high vis ice vest, just walking around, kind of like this other
That's this
Cody
dude here,
customer was
right?
in Kissimmee. Yeah,
Yeah. Because we haven't shown it yet, but while you're talking about it,
yeah, the high vis version,
which is still freaking cold as hell,
right?
and this is frozen yesterday or whatever.
Frozen yesterday. Right?
Yeah, you traveled all morning,
Yep.
got here, drove.
Drove. Yep.
So it's not like it was, sitting in an ice chest or
It's been out
whatever.
of the freezer since 5 p.m. yesterday.
dang, man.
What, it's like 2, 3 p.m. today, right now?
So yeah, okay, I can see a CrossFit application for this. All right, so continue with the story. I just want to check it out.
So, people find us all different ways, right? So the drive-throughs are one way, military word of mouth, social media is
Yeah.
another common way, and then we've been very fortunate to be written about in the Washington Post. We've been in Wall Street Journal, like I mentioned, Wired magazine. We've been in the New York Times.
Just catching fire, man. This is amazing.
So, enterprise customers often find us when we're published in like the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, and it's an affordable product. It's nothing crazy. You're not charging an arm and a leg for it. And we talked offline about this. I think we can talk about it here. But whether you ever ended up getting that big government contract or why not. And I thought it was interesting how you position yourself. If you want to talk more about that, if not, I can carry on. Well, I'll say this: when you get to a big agency like ours, they're looking at what's the cheapest thing we can get to equip these guys at the bare minimum standard and get them out on the street.
Yeah.
It's not to talk bad about my agency. It's not. It's just they're like, here you go.
They got a lot of mouths to feed.
Yes, and so they give you boots, but I'm like, who picked these boots?
Right.
These suck. Or they might have fit the person who tried them on, but you've got to be. Anyways, every police officer, I'll at least start with that. You get your own footwear. You are not wearing what the agency provides you. Garbage. And then they give you your Molly gear, your belt. And I remember the gun belt that I got, the holster, an Uncle Mike special. I think it was like a $10 holster. Just straight garbage. I laughed. I'm like, why are you even I guess they're required to give us something in the trash immediately. Like my life's at risk putting my gun in this $10 holster. Scary holster. Made overseas, whatever. Just garbage. So all officers, like if you look at an officer who's squared away with their gear, it's all personally bought. Yeah. And
we've noticed that in military and law enforcement both, right? Squared away guys have their own stuff.
Yeah. And it's the squared away guys and gals, and whether it's a conventional army, whether it's a patrol officer on the street, they're buying this stuff because they know it works, which is cool. Yeah. I mean, and that's just how it goes, man.
It's just how it goes.
Yeah, because even if there is a badass thing on the market, and we come to say our department with it, like, yo, you got to get this. This is the new holster. I'm like, oh, well, it's got to go through T&E, a couple of years later, blah, 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 blah. No. So if you want something, you got to get it now. Yeah. This is a story for another day, but same thing, like the flashlights they would give you. I'm like,
Garbage.
it's like 20-year-old technology.
They would give you guys
D-cell, non-rechargeable. But would you realize 100 lumens? I'm like, man, for like $30, $40, I can get something that's 10 times more powerful, rechargeable. I mean, come on, what are you doing here? Just stuck in the Stone Age. It's hard to. So, anyways, but I just thought that was interesting. So, picking up where we left off, tell us where we're at now. Where has the product gone from there? From the old days of the
REI 1-inch nylon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we have an 11,000 square foot facility in Knoxville, Tennessee, where we have just as many robots as we have people. And so we have a fair bit of automation that helps us build a good number of our things in-house. But everything that we make is, with one exception, is made right here in the U.S. Ice plates, ice flasks, etc. are made in Texas. We don't quite have the size to own those machines just yet. You got to be really, really big to own those.
Mhm.
Someday, hopefully, we'll have those. But everything else that supports it. So if you kind of think of our business a little bit like, to use an analogy, Tesla, right, that a lot of people would understand. There's kind of three phases to our business. There's the battery, the chassis, and the infrastructure. So for Tesla, they had to build a battery first, and then they had to wrap a chassis around it that gives them a car. And then the car had to have infrastructure to be able to drive around. That's a supercharging network, right? So our business is identical. The ice plate is the battery.
Right.
And then we have to build a series of chassis to carry it. And that's like, this thing here, which we'll get to later. Our Ice Plate Exo Gen 3, the IMS Pro that you see underneath there.
In the industry, that would be called a chest rig or a plate carrier.
Right. Exactly. So
which guys are wearing anyways.
Which guys have to wear
They got to have their plates. They got to have their ammo, their radio pouch, comm gear, whatever. And you're just finding a way to incorporate this ice plate so it fits with whatever they're already. And by the way, if they didn't have that ice plate, they got to wear a Camelback anyways.
Exactly. So the way that Ice Plate Exo, our plate carrier, the way that it was born is that we had literally hundreds of messages from customers saying hey, yeah, we get that you made these straps so that I can wear it with any armor system that I want, right? It's universally compatible, etc. But what we really want to see is, can you build a plate carrier with your ice plate designed from the around your ice plate from the ground up? We would love to see that.
So it's not all hodgepodge together. Yeah, I can only picture it. They got your plate and then a plate over it, and it probably didn't. Yeah, it's not ideal.
It wasn't elegant, right? Yep. So we designed Ice Plate Exo. This is the Gen 3 model. This is easily our best design ever, and it sells like absolute wildfire.
And I got to play with it off camera, and I know this sounds like a product plug. It is cool. It is super cool. It's very lightweight because even body armor these days, the plates are unbelievable. Level 3 plates just feels like a toy. This doesn't feel like it would stop anything, and yet it does. And so you incorporate the plates, throw in a pack or two, and that, like for instance, that carrier, you just need it on the back. You just need ice on the back.
Yeah, because our Ice Plate Exo is designed with two modes of thermoregulation organically integrated into the design, right? Conductive and convective. So conductive is ice plate worn on the inside of the armor, on the back,
close to the body,
so that it is conductively extracting heat from your body, right? Makes it much, much easier for your body to dissipate heat. The alternative, for those that are interested, right, is that when your body has to dump heat, the way that it sweats is it extracts water from your blood, okay? And then it moves that water to the surface of your skin where it theoretically would evaporate. And that evaporation is what removes heat from the body. It's extremely powerful. There's almost nothing more efficient than evaporative cooling when it comes to your body. The trick is that we don't all live in arid climates. Most of Earth is actually not arid. And so when the humidity levels get to a certain place, your sweat cannot evaporate from the surface of your skin. I live in Tennessee.
South Florida. Well, we're in Charlotte now, but yeah, humid, but down in South Florida, it's a swamp.
It's a swamp, right?
Yeah.
So we are actually dripping sweat most of the time. And when your body drips sweat, there's actually no thermoregulation that occurs. There's no heat transfer. When a drop of sweat falls or drips off of your body, that is just a loss of hydration. It's a loss of blood volume. There's no actual thermoregulation going on. So what's happening is your blood volume is shrinking because a lot of that volume is being lost to the water that your body is moving to the surface of your skin to sweat. And that is what starts to cause things like fatigue, right? Because we have, essentially it makes it harder for your heart to transport the same or less oxygen through your body.
It sounds to me like you're driving along and then you have a leaky radiator.
Yeah.
Like you're losing water. You can only go down the road so long if you just continue to sweat out all of that, and with no benefit. Right. Which you're not going to get the benefit if you don't have a fan on you, if there's not that circulation.
If there's not that evaporation.
Yeah.
Right? And again, you need the humidity level to be below a certain point for evaporation to even occur. So absent that, right, you need something like, there's really only 3 modes of heat transfer, right, in physics. There's conduction, convection, and radiation. When it comes to your body, there's actually 4: conduction, convection, radiation, and evaporation, right?
Okay.
But, that only really applies to sweat leaving the surface of your skin. So, yeah, you integrate ice plate into the carrier, right? And then our carrier is designed with hydrophobic materials. That basically just means it doesn't absorb water or sweat, so it keeps it very, very light. And because it's light, it takes less energy for your body to move the weight. It doesn't retain weight because it's hydrophobic. And it is also designed with our ice vents ventilation technology everywhere. So it facilitates airflow for arid or dry climates. When evaporation is possible, it has conductive cooling for when the climate is humid and evaporation is
And
not possible.
because I checked it out and I was asking you off camera, but to describe to the folks what your what your term was, what was that again? The material? What do you call it?
Oh, ice vents.
Ice vents. Okay,
Yeah, that's our convective technology.
it's like a honeycomb material that helps keep kind of a standoff between your body and the gear, but there's a lot of ventilation there. Best way I could describe it is like a honeycomb with a lot of holes in it,
Yep.
which makes sense because I'm looking at it. I mean, it looks pretty cool. Looks pretty high speed, really. That does not look like something you can just make in your grandma's basement.
No, it's unmatched. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not just like my opinion or sales pitch. Like, it is empirically unmatched.
Yeah, you've put a lot of time, money, and effort into designing that, I'm sure.
It's super cool. It's super
Yeah, and it looks very space age.
cool. Yeah.
Um,
And it's much softer than people realize. It's harder than some people want. It's softer than other people want. But right, it's just hard enough to be able to maintain that structure so that you can
Right.
facilitate.
And again, we go back to the days of wearing body armor without some kind of standoff material, and it is non-breathable carrier with a non-breathable whatever the material is in a bulletproof vest. It escapes me now.
It's a polyaramid fiber.
Yeah, Kevlar, whatever it is,
Spectra,
just non-breathable. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're just cooking. Yeah, there's no, and again, remember how I told you we'd cool off? Just give me some air, give me some space, and pump this thing just to get a little airflow. So, and that's what your product does now. Gives you that standoff airflow. So you're really just, and again, we keep coming back to, and as the ice melts, you got some water ready to go.
And it gets lighter as you drink the water, right? But you're replenishing that water volume in your blood that your body is losing to sweat.
Genius, bro.
So
I see why the company's successful. The product is successful. Killer. And now you've gotten, let's not say contracts, but you have buyers that can continue to come back for more. Can't even name the places that are now using it because everybody wants to keep it secret squirrel. But some high-speed units, are buying these by the pallet load.
Some are, yeah.
Yeah, which is so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. So I guess this product literally is gotta be based on the organizations that shall not be mentioned. This stuff's been around the world and then some. I can imagine.
Yeah, it's been a lot of cool places. We have
A lot of hot places. Let's be clear.
and cold.
And cool. There you go. All right.
Yeah, and cold places. We have a blog article on our website that's just customer submitted photos, and so you can kind of see a lot of the cool places.
Yeah.
That it's been.
So cool. And now maybe that brings us to the latest iteration, prototype, whatever you want to call it.
This project?
Yeah, man,
this
it's super.
project
Hey,
is
now you know,
really cool.
near and dear to my heart,
Yes.
what we're doing here. So,
Yes, so this is our this harness here, as some people may recognize, belongs to the United States Secret Service, and we have been working with them to solve what we didn't even know. Much like when the Army approached us, we didn't even know this was a big problem. But their working dogs overheat, right? They get really hot, and it fatigues them, and they need a way to keep them cool, to keep them safe. So we've been working with them for some time to develop this solution, which will conductively cool their dogs.
yep. Because dogs don't sweat, they don't evaporate the heat the way we do. So, speaking from experience, number one issue we had to deal with in South Florida. I mean, nationwide, but the hotter, the more we had to deal with it. We actually had a gentleman sitting in that chair right there a couple of podcasts ago, lost his police dog in a heat stroke incident. We lose dogs all the time through heat stroke.
Wow.
And we have still not found a solid solution. The best solution we've come up with, just so you know, two things. Throw them in the first pool you see,
Yep.
hose them down with a hose. And the trick is to cool them off before they even get hot. They're going to get hot eventually, but you just prolong it. Many a times, you would just stop in the backyard, toss your dog in the pool, let them lay down on that first step, and just wait 5 or 10 minutes for them to, because they're just wearing a damn fur coat,
Right. Right.
The only other thing that you could do, which I think you could talk on too, but emergency IVs or IV in them even at the start of a search will help a little bit. And then one more, based off of that same 0304 study, best place to cool a dog off, their paws. Yeah, and their undercarriage. So you could bring a cooler, water and ice, and you just need that dog to stand in the ice water for a little bit, and it's the fastest way to get get heat out of that dog.
Yeah.
But anyhow, you can't be searching for a bad guy with a ice, chest, and you're not searching for bad guys taking a 10-minute break in a pool.
Yeah, and that's one of the key differentiators, right? Is that really before Qore Performance, largely every protocol built around heat injuries or hypothermia is reactive. And there have been cooling vests, there's been water, hydration companies before, but nobody really that combined the two, right, in a preventive capacity, right? A lot of agency and big company protocols are all reactive, right? Forearm immersion cooling or ice sheets or whatever, right? You guys had air-conditioned vehicles for your dogs, right? All those things, some, by and large, are reactive to like, oh, once we have a problem, here's how we treat it. And our way of thinking is very much how do we prevent problems?
Proactive.
Right? How do we be proactive? How do we prevent problems? Because prevention is so much less expensive, right? And it's also just it's just like better for the humans and the dogs.
Yeah.
Better for everybody. So we've been working on this solution, which is called Ice Flask, and we're really excited. And it's been great to work with the guys over at Secret Service because
they're using it for dogs. Not to get into specifics, but they have dogs, from my experience, that are doing everything from protecting the White House to searching for explosives, you name it. And I think it's really cool. And again, we go to the added benefits. Dogs get thirsty.
Yeah.
And so those are designed as a...
They're just going to carry their own drinking water, just
Yeah.
like ice could. Right? So this is the product we're going to use for them is called Ice Flask. Right? So this is a 500 milliliter water bottle that's in the same footprint as a PRC 152 or an embedder, right, a military radio. And so it's designed to be worn here on a human, or as you can see, basically on the belly of a dog.
Mhm.
And then as they melt the ice, they get cold water to drink.
Yeah,
Very
killer.
simple. Same as ice plate.
Yeah. And not too heavy.
No, right? I mean, right, dogs are already carrying
All the gear,
some
yeah.
gear and some protective equipment.
They can handle a few extra pounds, especially if it's going to cool them off.
Right, and in this case, it's really actually it's probably 2 pounds or less.
So being developed for the Secret Service, but once that's a viable product, which it's basically already, but definitely some tweaks for improvement. Always, like you said, that's Gen 3 vest,
Right, exactly.
and still, I'm sure you're still seeking improvement for Gen 4 and all that. So that's amazing. I'm just so excited to see. Like, I'm already thinking, could we be using that in police canine units? 110%. And then just pet owners that want to go hiking with their dog, or they want to. Where do I keep my dog's water bowl? Right there.
Just carry it, right?
Let them carry it.
It helps cool, he or she down while he or she's on a walk or
Yeah.
with you or whatever. Right? Again, preventing the problems.
Sure.
And it's very inexpensive to prevent the problem. But who wants to face big vet bills, right? And
Yeah.
you know better than any of us how expensive these dogs are.
Yeah.
Right? Not just to buy, but to train.
Yeah, we heat stroked a dog. I say we. I'll take full blame. I heat stroked a dog. Just working. It was nighttime. I don't want to get into it because we covered it in another podcast, but just doing a typical training track, and this dog ends up getting the bite. I was the decoy. We're rolling around on the ground, which was the whole scenario. And when we got the dog off the bite, that dog, it was like, man, this dog's, yeah, he's breathing real funny. It just couldn't exhaust the heat, and ended up running it to the vet. 3 or 4 days later, dozens and dozens of blood transfusions. The dog's body was just shutting down, all the organs shutting down. He was cooking from the inside, literally melting his blood. They described it to me that at some point the blood gets so hot that red blood cells and stuff are just blowing up, and the blood becomes, I don't want to say poisonous, but not useful. And so he kept having to pump in. They kept bringing in dogs for blood transfusions to save this dog's life, Falco. And from heat stroke. And that dog made it, but like so many other dogs do not make it. So yeah, and that's working dogs, but it happens to pet dogs too all the time. Just heat stroking.
Really know.
Oh, it's a problem.
Secret Service made us aware of this problem because I think they're a group of really cool problem solvers, and right, they're trying to get ahead of this thing. They know it's an issue, so we've been really excited about this project.
Yeah, and you can picture, especially with like bomb dogs or whatever, they're usually outside. Standing outside, like entry point for vehicles, and those dogs are standing on the hot pavement, getting cooked from the sun, then from the heat of the pavement, and then they're usually sweeping cars. Those cars are usually running, which just they're ovens themselves. Yeah, super hot to be sweeping. Then they're inhaling the heat coming off those cars, and so yeah,
Just hotter.
they just gas out,
Right,
man.
we've all worked Dewey checkpoints, right? Dewey checkpoints are hot.
Yep. And we're not wearing a fur coat.
Right, we're
You know.
wearing armor, but we're not wearing a
Yeah,
fur
it's
coat,
true.
right? And we're sweating, right? They're not. But yeah,
Yeah, I have a lot of hope in this. Like, it has to work. God dang it, because what else are we gonna do? And it's time. And if it's working great for humans, I can see such a huge potential, both in the military and law enforcement application, and definitely in the civilian application. I know there's a lot of people out there that love to take their dog on long adventure hikes and whatnot. And the first thing you got to be watching out for is that heat stroke.
Yeah.
Yeah, these dogs just cook.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a dog lover myself, right? So we go visit these guys, and we're like, oh man, I'm watching.
I need some branding on there, brother. I need some American Standard freaking, just give me my little bowl to hang off the side. I'll get you a little bowl attachment.
I know a guy that I think can help make that happen.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So super cool, man. I'm so excited. It's still a young company, and through a lot of hard work, taught to you by your father, all the lessons learned, and rightly so, taking full advantage of the opportunities presented to us here in America. Nothing was handed to you. And man, it's super cool to see your entrepreneurial story, which starts even before you were born, and I'm sure your father would be really, really proud of what you've been able to accomplish. And we're just barely skimming the surface, man. We're just getting started. I'm sure you have a notebook somewhere of all those ideas you had that, you didn't, once this project's set, I'm excited to see what you have in store for the next iteration, whatever that might be. So super cool. I'm so appreciative that you brought this stuff here. This isn't even all the stuff you have. It's just a short, small sampling. So if anyone wants to find out more, all your stuff will be in the description below. But Qore Performance, YouTube, all the social media,
Instagram.
Reach out. You got to try it out. And I just can't believe the price point. It's for what it is. I could see you charging hundreds and hundreds of dollars for this, and it's like, I can't believe the price you're charging for this stuff, making it very affordable and accessible to anyone.
And
so
still 100% made in USA.
you can't beat that. You can't beat that. So, any final words?
No, just thank you so much for having me on, and letting us share a little bit about our story. It's been really, really fun. Really enjoyed it. And thank you again.
Yeah, I'm inspired. I know our listeners have to be inspired. And another big shout out and thank you to Meet Perry, the folks over at Meet Perry. If it wasn't for them, guys like you and me wouldn't get together and inspire each other and help each other along the process and get to know each other, and you wouldn't be sitting before me right now. And so big thank you to them, and I love what they're doing. And big fans of our channel, and we're big fans of what they're doing. And they support us, and we support them 110%. And so you folks will be seeing many more Meet Perry members coming on, because I just got instant access to some incredible people, not across the nation, across the globe, just doing amazing things like what Justin's doing here. And you just never know, man. You sit down at one of these Meet Perry events, you're like, so what do you do? I'm like, that's cool, man. Let me know more about that.
I remember when, I think it was Michael had mentioned it to me. He's like, oh, you got to meet one of our newest members, Garret. He's really big in social media. And I was like, okay, like coming from, finance guys, I was like, I don't know what that means. Right. And of course, that he introduced us, and I was like, oh my gosh, like he's not like kind of good at this. Like he's like really good at this.
Yeah, we're just scratching the surface, man. Yeah.
So it's been very, very cool to get to see your business and learn about it. Very impressive operation.
Killer. Well, Justin, thank you so much again, and thank you to all of our amazing listeners and followers. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, share this podcast, as with all of our other podcasts, with all your friends, your grandma, and your auntie too. Let them know we're here, and thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.